pass. Happy Con.
National Championships obviously means a lot.
Wearing the green and gold on the road, it would be a huge honour.
This is an impossible dream, and it's all come true today in Buninyong. He is head and shoulders above anybody else in Australia.
To be Australian champion and to have that jersey is a huge honour.
Super excited, it's just the best feeling ever.
He is the champion of Australia.
Winning the Australian Championship is the perfect way to start a year.
Miles Scottson now attacks. Strategically perfect. But Garfoot is simply too strong. Ooh. It's the time trial and the road race for Garfoot. She's the Australian champion. Whether it's the Tour de France or it's the World Championship, cycling is not about racing for trophies, it's about racing for the jersey. And today, for the elite men and women, it's about racing to be crowned the Australian champion and wearing the green and gold for the next 12 months. Hello and welcome to Buninyong for the Fed Uni Road National Championships. I'm Matthew Keenan, joined by Phil Liggett and Bridie O'Donnell. And Phil, it is about the jersey, and whoever wins it today will be speaking about them for the next 12 months as the Australian champion.
Yes, and I think that's the point. It's paramount. Of course, if you're the top of your sport, you want to prove it, and that chance is now right here in Buninyong. But to wear the green and gold for the next year, of course, you take that jersey to Europe, to the major races in the world, and you pull on that jersey, you ride like two men, or women.
And Bridie is somebody that's ridden here so often in the past, a winner of the time trial, second in the road race in 2010. For those Australian cyclists that get to ride the biggest races in the world, how important is today?
It really is a career-defining moment to wear a green and gold jersey all season and to be called up to the start line of races to represent your country over and over again. It's an extraordinary honour and a privilege, and you get to celebrate that over and over again.
It's been a big week of racing already. We've seen many Australian champions already crowned. It kicked off on Wednesday in the heart of Ballarat with the criteriums, and the racing was exceptional. And we saw in the women's race somewhat of a surprise, Bridie, in that Rebecca Wise actually snuck up the inside. She's a world champion, but she got the title in the criterium.
She's having a great couple of years and extraordinary performances on the track in the individual pursuit, and making her way into the team pursuit squad I think will be her goal for Commonwealth Games.
She was delighted to take the win. In the under-23 men, it was Cameron Scott who delivered, Phil.
Yes, and this is a young man for the future. The under-23s, they used to be called amateurs in the old days, but these are the guys making the future of Australian cycling.
And Christina Clonan, she won the under-23 women's race. In the men's race, Caleb Ewan, he made it a hat-trick.
Extraordinary to watch him sprint, and the effort required for people just to try and hold his wheel, I think, is fantastic.
It was interesting to see on the podium the look on the face of Brenton Jones in third position. That's his second or third minor placing in this race. He was disappointed, but he shouldn't be. Caleb was just too good.
Yes, he's got a great future ahead of him this year too, in fact, Brenton Jones.
And another hat-trick, it was Katrin Garfoot who won the individual time trial. Bridie, this is a race that you've won in the past. She dominated, almost 2.5 minutes to second place, Lucy Kennedy.
Extraordinary gap back to some very high calibre time trials, Kennedy and then Gillow, who's been a 4-time winner to be a bronze medalist last week.
In the men's race, the women's race first, in the under-23s, it was Alexandra Manley who took the win. In the under-23 for the men, it was Callum Scottson who made it 3 in a row, and his brothers also won that title in the past. But Rowan Dennis, like Katrin Garfoot, he was dominant, Phil. He won by more than a minute ahead of Luke Durbridge.
Another man getting his 3 in a row for the past 3 years, and he actually came from his home in Andorra, where he's been training indoors, and he proved he can find the legs wherever he rides.
What a contrast. He's gone from the snow to temperatures of up to around about 35 degrees on that occasion. Yesterday, the under-23 road race, It was not Miles Scottson. On this occasion, it was Cyrus Monk who won by some 30 seconds clear on his own.
Strong ride, a superb ride. He got away, he joined the leaders, he dropped them, he finished alone.
As for the favourites to take out the title today, Katrin Garfoot starts as the defending champion, but she has no teammates with her. Spratt, Alvin, Mullins, they've all won before, but Rachel Nayland, so many near misses.
She's been on the podium 4 times in the last 7 years. She's riding with Movistar this season, so she has no teammates, but she knows this course inside and out and looks fit.
Shara Gillow and Lauren Kitchen, they're teammates for the FDJ team. Tiffany Cromwell, she's a perennial favourite but hasn't quite had the win yet. Shannon Molseed, one of the locals, and Lucy Kennedy has shown really good form with silver in the time trial, and she was the bronze medalist here 1 year ago. A change to the course this year, it's predominantly the same but is ever so slightly different, Bridie, with the introduction of a little bit of a circuit through Federation Uni.
While the climb at the start doesn't usually seem that hard, after 7 or 8 laps it will really test the legs, and this extra 1.5 kilometres through Federation Uni just allows a break to stay away. You can see there's quite a few twists and turns there. It's nothing too technical, but it certainly works in the favour of a break.
104.4 kilometres in total. Amongst the favourites, Amanda Spratt, she's won it twice and she's now down, ready to go, talking to Sophie Smith.
Amanda, you know this course, you love this course, you were so close last year. How are you feeling ahead of today?
I'm nervous but excited. Yeah, it feels a little bit like Groundhog Day being back here again. I've raced on this course so many times, but it's one that suits me and we have a great team here. Everyone's in really great shape, so definitely hoping to take that jersey home today.
Yeah, it's going to be a good race out there today. I'm really happy that we're 2 instead of alone on the start line this year, but of course there's a strong contingent from Mitchell and Scott. I think they have 7 on the start line today, so they're the team to beat with the pressure, but we'll be looking to go out there and give it our best shot and see what happens.
I think the course this year is harder. We go through Fed Uni and it's kind of technical, but more so there's a couple of little pinches in there, so I think there's less recovery between the climb, the top of the climb and the start of the climb again, so I think that'll make it harder for people like myself, but probably more tactical, which is a little bit to my advantage. So I think the mix-up of riders in different teams this year is quite an interesting sort of mix. I think having Kat Garfoot out of Mitchelton Wines this year will make the race really exciting, and I know she won't go down without a battle wanting to defend her title.
How are you feeling ahead of the road race, particularly on the back of your time trial win? Is that giving you a lot of momentum and also going in as defending champion?
Yeah, it does give me momentum. It makes me a bit more excited about the race. There's no pressure on me. I don't feel it. Just excitement, really. And I can't wait to see how it unfolds. It's going to be an interesting race, I reckon.
And there is no pressure at all on the shoulders of the defending champion. She's already got a gold medal. It was the Redcoats that got the race underway. They've been racing now for just over an hour and 15 minutes, 3 laps completed. It's been an aggressive start, and Phil, we've already got a breakaway group of 3 established, including 2 pre-race favourites with Jessica Allen and Lauren Kitchen joining Kate Perry off the front.
Yes, and the fact that Jess Allen's there, we heard Peter Mullins talking about the strength of the Mitchell and Scott team. Putting one in the break straight from the gun has thrown all the pressure back on the peloton. At one stage, they've got the lead out to over 4 minutes. There is a reaction, but the girls in the yellow and black, as we watched them on the early moves, this is how they got into the groove. Jess Allen there, followed quickly by Kate Perry and Lauren Kitchen, the Port Macquarie girl.
Tactically, Bridie, this move by Mitchelton Scott, we heard before from Lauren Kitchen and from Peter Mullins about their numerical advantage. They've got 7 riders in the race. I get the impression, though, they clearly fear Katrin Garfoot and are trying to use those numbers very early.
They're absolutely aware of her strength. The way she talks, she also says she has no pressure on, she's just there for fun. What I really like as well is that Lauren Kitchen from Française de Jure was the 3rd rider to bridge across to this group of 3. She's got an extraordinary teammate in Shara Gillow, who's medalled here before and is a 4-time time trial champion. So this is a very dangerous combination.
It is a good combination. We saw just missing the move was Carly Taylor. This is Kate Perry in the darker colours. She's, by all reports, been driving the tempo and the climb for a fair portion of the race. Just behind her is Jessica Allen, who's been a junior world champion in the past, and she really had a big breakthrough season in 2017. And Lauren Kitchen, new team for her in 2018, riding for the Française de Jure team. Shara Gillow, a teammate. Philip puts them in a good position with Shara sitting back in the peloton watching the other favourites.
Yeah, and we're looking at live pictures now as we pick up the action here. We're heading around to the completion of the half-distance lap here. Number one, Jess Allen, it's an interesting way they do it here in Australia, because number one is usually worn by the defending champion. But Jess Allen isn't the defending champion, but it's alphabetical, and Allen means she gets to wear number one. She said the other day she was embarrassed by the fact she would have to ride in number one.
I think that they should keep it alphabetical, but give the defending champion number one and then work backwards from there.
I agree with you, although she has been Australian criterium champion, so she's absolutely a worthy winner and has been an extraordinary domestique in the Mitchelton-Scott team over the first season that she raced pro.
Well, this leading group of three, they have had an advantage approaching 4 minutes not too long ago. There's been somewhat of a reaction from the peloton to try and contain it. So often we talk about this early breakaway of just rolling the dice. And normally in an early breakaway, it's not such a high quality breakaway. But all three of these riders on a course like this, with such a big climb up Mount Buninyong, they're capable of going all the way through to the finish.
Also, I think the dominance of what was Orica Green Edge over the last few years of having all the numbers may not always work. As you say, they're afraid of Katrin Garfoot's strength and capability, but there are also other riders like Rachel Nayland, Shannon Malseed, who's a local favourite, obviously, with a great climbing ability. And you can just see on your screen there in the blue clothing and the white helmet, that's Loretta Hanson. She rides in the United States for United Healthcare. She was saying to me before the start that she's absolutely motivated to get the 6th and final spot in the Uni SA team that will be racing the Tour Down Under next week.
Now we're watching them here, Matt. They've just come into the Fed Uni grounds, the campus area. This is the peloton. We're showing 3:46. There was a sign of reaction on the climb just previously. They got it down to 3:25. If the clock is right, they're pulling away again, those three leaders. They're on the Geelong Road now, heading down towards the finishing line here in the centre of Buninyong.
Importantly, at the front of the peloton, it was one of the teammates of Kate Perry from the Specialised squad, Ella Blore, sitting at the front, not chasing at all. False tempo, hoping that 3:45 becomes 4:45.
Sensible riding by her, and they've been such a strong National Road Series team, and they've got an even greater strength in Ashan Kudnoff will be racing with them, and Kendall Hodges, both very experienced riders who will be racing the 2018 NRS season for Specialised.
This is Jessica Allen for the Mitchelton-Scott team. We've seen the breakaways go in the pass all the way through to the finish from an early move in both the women's race and the men's race. So it's not beyond these three to be able to steal all the big prizes.
2011 was actually the last year that the early break ended up being the winning move, and Alexis Rhodes, who was riding for Garmin that year, was the winner. But no one imagined that break of 7 or 8 riders would stay away, and they just were there all day. It was also very hot, and that affected how the peloton rode.
This is Kate Perry sitting at the front. She has been a winner of the Tour of Bright in the past. You don't win Bright without being able to climb, because that's a race that goes up the 30-kilometre long Mount Hotham.
Interesting you should talk about that. The Tour of Bright was cancelled in December of last year because of terrible weather predictions, and it is usually a real form finder for a lot of these climbing riders, for both men and women, and the opportunity was missed for a lot of those riders to determine how their form was going leading into nationals.
I get the impression that Kate Perry is doing a lot of the work in this leading group. She doesn't need to do quite so much.
I think Perry's got a point to prove. She's been a very strong domestic cyclist. She was bronze in the time trial in 2017, but probably didn't have a result she might have hoped for just 2 days ago in the time trial. She was 5th, which was a good result, but still a fair gap back to that dominant performance by Garfoot.
She has been a bronze medalist in the past in the individual time trial. Kate Perry. Our 3 leaders out in front. It is Kate Perry that is on the front. In second position is Lauren Kitchen. In third place is Jessica Allen. Jessica Allen, one of 7 riders from the Mitchelton-Scott team. New sponsor name on board this year. Previously, this team for the last 12 months we knew as Orica Scott. Now Mitchelton coming on board as the major sponsor of that team. And they've got big numbers as well later on this afternoon in the men's race. Here in the women's race, Jessica Allen was one of the pre-race favourites. They've also got back in the peloton, watching, waiting to see who's going to do the chasing. Dual winner Amanda Spratt, last year's silver medalist as well, and Gracie Elvin, who's won this race twice.
And let's not forget, Matt, they are the #1 team internationally at the moment, Mitchelton-Scott. They've got all the top riders. They've got the world-ranked #1 rider on the team as well. She's Dutch, so she isn't here for the national titles. But looking at the 3 leaders here, Kate Perry is going to find Jessica Allen and Lauren Kitchen, I think, semi-passengers, because they're not sure it's going to go away. She's in a move and she wants to make it count, so she is doing most of the work on the front. There's a lot of cards to play, of course, by Jess Allen's team, Mitchelton-Scott. And Lauren Kitchen, well, she's a little bit in no woman's land. She doesn't really know quite which way to jump here, because they've had a lead at one point of over 4 minutes and 20 seconds. And quite honestly, alarm bells sounded then, because those three could have gone the distance if they kept that advantage.
I think Lauren's in a fantastic position. She doesn't need to climb well. She's not known to being a climber, as Perry and Allen are probably superior, Perry in particular. So Kitchen's in a great position. She can outsprint both of those riders if this group stays away, and she has Gillow to rely on in the final laps as really a far superior climber to her.
Back in the main peloton, this is Gina Ricciardo, who's sitting on the front with the pink helmet on in the blue and the yellow colours of the Sydney Uni Velo team, sponsored by Staminade. And she's a rider who's a good climber at a national level, but not quite at this international level.
There's Ashley Ann Kudinoff, silver medal in the World Individual Pursuit Track Championships last year. Extraordinary sprinter and a very smooth bike rider. You always want to sit in and around her wheel. And in front of her is Kendall Hodges. So they're teammates of Kate Perry, protecting the lead by staying safe at the front.
And we now see Janelle Crooks coming through in the Mitchelton-Scott colours. So these are two teams, Mitchelton-Scott and Specialised, with a rider in the breakaway. They're not really going to chase. So who does?
Well, there are some National Road Series teams with good representation. Holden Gusto, that's Sarah Gigante's team. They have Kimberly Wells, Erin Keneally, but more importantly, probably their protected rider is Grace Brown. She's had an extraordinary year racing domestically and also spent some time in the national team in Europe in August and September of last year and performed very, very well indeed.
Through the feed zone, the 3 litres, no stockings today. Yesterday we saw lots of stockings for the under-23s and the under-19 races, filled with ice down the back of the jersey each lap to try and keep that core body temperature somewhere in a reasonable position. The racing yesterday was shortened because of the extreme weather, not so much in terms of athlete welfare, but more so with the emergency services and the fire risk that was in the region. That's a big part of why the races were reduced and brought forward yesterday.
Yeah.
The heat was extreme. The racing was really hard. Today, the conditions are idyllic.
We're blessed, yeah, because let's face it, yesterday we tickled 40. When we were driving to the start this morning, it was 14 Celsius. So that's the sort of difference that you get here in Australia and in this part of the world.
So end of lap 4 now. We should also remind
them, Bridie, though, there are 2 championships being run here today. We've got the under-23 as well, of which there are 10 of the women here are riding for that. We had a nice shot there of Alex Manley, who's going for the double just now, if she can pick up the best under-23 rider.
Manley's a very talented rider, great track rider too, and she in fact rode in the Austral with Nettie Edmondson, has rode the Australian Madison Championships, and they had a pretty bad crash during that event, but performed well.
The white colours, that is Katrin Garfoot. She's the defending champion, the winner of the time trial by almost 2.5 minutes just a couple of days ago. She's looking a little anxious, like she'd like to see some more speed within this peloton, and a disadvantage of almost 4 minutes. That's understandable.
Interesting to see Mitchelton-Scott now on the front. They've determined that Jess Allen's not going to be their strongest chance of a win by allowing that break to stay away. And you can see with Garfoot, obviously formerly a teammate of all of those riders, so she's wearing exactly the same helmet. So from the front, it looks as though she's a teammate, but then we see the clothing's different, and she's sort of sneaking herself into that group, which would be rather disconcerting, I'm sure, for riders like Spratt and Elvin.
3 litres, they've made the left-hand turn off the Midland Highway. They're now onto the climb of Mount Buninyong. The highway itself is a difficult climb. When they turn left, you get a slight reprieve, and then you can see the mountain just fan out in front of you.
The direction of the wind today is actually much more favourable as well. Obviously, the riders yesterday, under 19 and under 23, had a pretty awful headwind going up this climb. It doesn't look that steep from this camera angle, but trust me, when you're heading up there now for the 5th time, it's going to be starting to feel it. And with Allen and Perry both on similar points, Perry's on 8 points total and Allen's on 7, it's clear that they don't want Perry to just take all those points. So I think we're going to see a little contest at the top of this QOM between Jessica Allen and Kate Perry.
Yes, unusual that they do actually sprint up the hill for King of the Mountains points. This is a national championship, so it's very odd to have these interim competitions. And at the finish line, they sprint for points. And Perry, because of her work rate, has always been on the front. And she's got a lead in both categories at the moment.
And she continues to maintain that tempo. She's doing a lot of the work at the front, Kate Perry. Now instructions from the team car for Kate Perry from the Specialised Women's Racing Squad.
Yesterday the wind was so strong there was pieces of gum bark flying across in front of the riders at this point and pushing them over to the left of our picture, and it was very, very strong indeed. They're going to keep it going. They had 3:49 when they went out onto this 5th circuit, so they've slightly pulled it out again because they dropped back to 3:25 on this climb the previous lap.
Trying to eavesdrop on the conversation. Kate Perry getting the instructions, setting the tempo. She's been doing a lot of the work. I'm sure it's not just by chance that the camera goes back and she's on the front. This is Lauren Kitchen. You'll note she's wearing the black armband. Tragically, just before Christmas, Jason Lowndes, one of the great guys of Australian cycling, was killed when he was hit from behind by a car after a training ride, heading back to home just 8 days after his 23rd birthday. And Trudy and Graham, if you are watching, all our thoughts are with you and the entire Lowndes family. He was a guy that, as soon as you saw him, Bridie, you involuntarily smiled. An infectious smile and a great zest for life. And Jason Lowndes is with many of the riders today in this race.
Absolutely, Matt. He's going to be very sorely missed by every rider who's ever met him and other people who've been involved in cycling.
Yes, and just a couple of days ago, as a tribute, all the cyclists came together as one on this circuit and rode early morning. Some 500 or 600 of them went around the course to remember Jason.
Well, it's always interesting to look at riders' faces. Some riders always look more uncomfortable than others. So there's an American rider, Megan Garnier, who always looks terrible. And in fact, I've spoken to Jess Allen about this. She said, I can't pretend I'm not feeling uncomfortable. I can't fake it. But she also has a capacity to go above that, whereas someone like Kitchen probably makes an effort to not look as though she's suffering. So we can't always rely on that. But I do feel like Perry is doing everything she can to keep this breakaway. It's totally within her interest.
And the gap is reducing. It's now down to 23, 26. And we saw just moments ago Mitchelton Scott, for the first time, really come to the front in big numbers just to make sure this doesn't get out of hand. So if something does go pear-shaped, they're in a position to respond. And in their first year, in the men's race in particular, they had Cameron Meyer in a break like this, and then he was off the front on his own, and it looked as if the race was all sewn up and Cameron Meyer was going to win. He then went hunger flat, completely exploded, and the team had to try and rescue the race. It was Simon Gerrans who rescued it almost single-handedly and won the race for the Green Edge team as we then knew them. So they're conscious of that, and having all their eggs in the Jessica Allen basket is a risk as good as she is.
Absolutely it is.
Yep,
and I think they know the capability of Kitchen, a rider who's medalled here before but never won and has been racing for international racing teams in Europe and America for a long time, and I raced with her in the national team in 2009. Incredibly tenacious rider, great climber, great sprinter.
Our 3 leaders, they've just gone over the top of the climb. Kate Perry collecting more points for the Fed Uni King of the Mountains classification.
4, 3, 2, 1.
The historic city of Ballarat is fast becoming a mecca for craft beer and is home now to several breweries. One of Victoria's fastest growing cities, Ballarat knows a good pint when it sees one. Alive in the day and vibrant in the evening. Its Gold Rush days are still very much a part of the Ballarat scene.
Our 3 leaders still holding on to an advantage of around about 3.5 minutes over the top of the climb the previous time through. Once again, it was Kate Perry collecting more points in the race for the Fed Uni King of the Mountains classification. She's also picking up the points through the start-finish line in the race for the Altus sprint jersey. And there she is at the front, wearing number 45. Sitting just behind her is Lauren Kitchen in the blue and white colours of the French team FDJ. And then at the back of the group, for Australia's #1 team, the Mitchelton Scott team, that is Jessica Allen. They make the right-hand turn, they head into Federation Uni, and this is a new part of the course this year. And although this gives sprinters greater distance to be able to get back on if they are dropped up the climb, this part is really tough, Bridie. Little lumpy and technical.
I thought it was interesting to hear a rider like Peter Mullins, who's won here before, describe it as a harder course. I think that while people would often argue that after the climb there was that flat section on Gears Avenue that wasn't as challenging, it was still often then an area where riders would attack. Now there are an additional 6 corners over that 1.5 kilometres, and that just means there's greater risk.
That's a lot of corners.
It is a lot of corners. I mean, it's not as many corners as a Kermesse in Belgium, and there's no cobbles, but there are some road or speed bumps. And again, when things start getting a bit more tense and riders are more fatigued, that's going to mean that risks and decision making is really, really important, and the risk of injury or accident or missing a move could be key. So the riders with better technical skills and better confidence are really going to be advantaged here.
51 kilometres out from the finish. We're on the 5th circuit of 9, and these are 3 women now again for the second lap. They've lost time up the climb, but they've gained it again as we go through the Fed Uni grounds, and it's moved out now, as you can see, to 3:31. They pulled it back on the climb to 3:05. So they're riding the hill with a lot of common sense, I think, Matt, at the moment. But look at this now. Mitchelton Scott smiling because they've got Jess Allen in the breakaway and nobody's attacking them.
That's Janelle Crooks at the front, followed by then Amanda Spratt, who looked fairly happy. The dual winner of this race. She was the silver medalist last year in the dark colours with the red on the sleeve. That's Erin Keneally from the Holden Gusto team. They've had a great week in the under-19s, Bridie. Sarah Gigante created a little bit of history, as since the championships have been here in Ballarat and Buninyong, she became the first person to win 3 gold medals. All the races. She won the criterium, the time trial, and dominated the road race.
A great last name, Gigante. You know, she really is a giant of the sport, even at her young age. You can see there's a QAS rider here at the front. That's Christina Clonan. She's an under-23 rider, fantastic pursuiter, team pursuiter, and fantastic track rider. But she's had a good week, a strong week already. And I think while she's not necessarily the climbing calibre of Alex Manley or some of the other under-23 riders, she'll definitely be in for a medal chance.
She's an exciting prospect, and certainly for Australian cycling heading towards the Tokyo Olympics. She's a rider that we'll probably get to know a lot more of.
What's always challenging at national championships is this terrible disparity between a team of 7 like Mitchelton Scott and 1 or 2 individual riders. And I've certainly had teammates like Ruth Corset who might have had nowhere near the support that they needed come the final laps of a race. Then if you're a rider as an individual in this event, you might be hanging on fine while the pace is okay in the peloton. But once Mitchelton decide that they want to bring this back with full force, that's when you might get piped out the back on the climb. So that's the challenge for a lot of these riders who think, oh, I'm hanging in there, I'm still there, and then they realise that actually they're going to go up a gear.
And Phil, for those riders who are out there on their own, like Katrin Garfoot, the defending champion, they take a lot of confidence out of the elite men's race last year, where Miles Scottson was one out riding for BMC. Yep. His first ride for that team, mind you, and he won.
We were here, Matt, and it was a tremendous occasion, and he's had his first full year in the World Tour riding for Team BMC. We'll see him a little later on when the men's get underway. By the way, as we turn away here from the Fed Uni, many people will remember this better as the University of Ballarat. Well, it's changed its name now because it has become much more international, and it's expanded into Gippsland and Berwick in Melbourne. And it really is the seat of international learning now, and I'm delighted to say that the Federation Uni Australia is now the naming rights sponsor of these championships.
And the advantage for the 3 leaders, it's back out towards that 4-minute mark, 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
So they're now making their way down with a couple of kilometres to go to the start-finish line, and that will be the end of lap 5. And they're back on the original part of the course, so it'll be generally heading downhill.
When do we have
the direction
to take
of the wind means, though, that it's nowhere near as fast as we saw the riders experiencing yesterday, where they had this roaring tailwind into the finish, which was fascinating to watch some of those junior riders on restricted gears, Matt, trying to generate enough speed at already high velocity of 55-60 k an hour.
Okay.
This is Jessica Allen, who last year she won the criterium in the heart of Ballarat and Sturt Street, and she won that not in the classic way that you win a criterium by sprinting from the big group. She won that going away solo. Big step forward in 2017 for Jessica Allen. She's gone from being team helper to now team helper with a few chances to win, and a couple of years I think she'll be one of the team leaders.
There's a lot of broad talent across in that team, with obviously, as you said, Phil, Annemiek van Vleuten is the world #1. She's the leader of the Mitchelton Scott team, and fantastically she's come out to Australia for the summer and was here hopefully to race the Tour of Bright, which got cancelled, but she'll be racing Tour Down Under, Herald Sun Tour, Cadell Evans Great Ocean Road Race. So it's wonderful to have the world time trial champion. For anyone who watched the Rio Olympics, Annemiek van Vleuten was that rider who had an extraordinary crash with just a few kilometres to go on the descent when she had a handy lead over the American Mara Abbott. Amazingly, she wasn't seriously injured during that crash while it looked really awful, didn't it, Matt? But
it looked horrible.
Yeah, so she's really somewhat of an adopted Australian, like a lot of these pros that ride for teams. We've had Valentina Scandalara is definitely an adopted Australian as well, the Italian rider. So it's great to have them out here over the summer.
Now just look at this, Matt. It's out to 350 again, which was their advantage when they started this fifth circuit. They dropped back to 305, but they continue to gain time now on these on the rest of this field. We're going into the last 4 laps of the race. It makes you wonder if this could be the break.
It shows the lack of commitment in the chase.
Yes, absolutely.
They're demonstrating their concern on the climb, and they open up the throttle ever so slightly. They get to the top. Okay, who's going to do the work? Because we don't want to do all the chasing. Mitchelton Scott, they don't want to chase down Jessica Allen, but do they believe that Jessica can beat Lauren Kitchen and Kate Perry, who again, incidentally, Kate Perry is leading them through, picking up more points in the race for the Ultra Sprint jersey.
Really consistent work by Kate, and again, not to take away from her effort, but this is also about the fact that Allen and Kitchen don't want to contest this part of the race. They don't want to waste any energy, and it's better for the break to stay together and close and give them a better aerodynamic benefit.
The fact that Kate is picking up the sprints and the King of the Mountains points, is she sending the message to the other two? I'm not convinced I can beat you, so I want to make sure I get some sort of a prize.
And it's great for Specialised team. Obviously, they've had some changes with minor sponsors. You can see them wearing different clothing, but they've been loyally sponsored by Specialised, and there's some great riders. So this would be a great start to the season in terms of promotion for that team, and they absolutely deserve it.
Well, they've gone out onto lap number 6 now. They've covered some 58 kilometres, 46 left to ride. And the gap is a very useful 3:51 and counting. We expect it to be tickling again 4 minutes when that main field comes into our sight.
And that Honda that you can see directly behind them with Com2, that's not us. That's not a commentary car. That's the commissaires, the race officials.
Yes.
And we saw when they went around the corner in the white and blue colours, Lauren Kitchen again, the one leading the conversation, having a chat then to Jessica Allen.
Now, race director Scott McGrory was describing to us yesterday that because there are some extremely talented individual riders, they've ensured that there is one support car to look after those women. These are also the women that have been selected to ride for the Uni-SA team in the Tour Down Under. And they are Lauren Kitchen, her teammate Shara Gillow, Tiffany Cromwell, Rachel Nayland, and another rider whose name I've forgotten.
Katrin Garfoot.
Katrin Garfoot. How could I have forgotten? Interestingly, though, there is still one spot available for that team of 6. And so you can understand there are other riders, perhaps like Mullins or Loretta Hansen, who'd be putting their hands up, hoping for that opportunity to race in these high-profile races in Australia over the summer.
And I like that system. Here's the ones that we are going to take, but there's still a spot available. So make the most of your opportunity.
Also
right now, I'd put Kate Perry in there because she's riding superbly.
Well, she's taking the race on, at the very least. And that's what you want in an event like the Tour Down Under. You want to see riders that are aggressive. This is the peloton now, almost back out to 4 minutes. They're still descending down into the heart of Buninyong.
Yep. That's a good, just on 1.5 kilometres away from the line.
Brenna Hargrave is the rider that you can see in the red colours down towards the back, riding for the South Australian Institute of Sport.
Number 3 there in the Rush women's team, that's a team I used to race for. That's Justine Barrow. She's an amazing climber. Very small, quite light, has every single Strava QOM award in Victoria and probably the country. I think that's also assisted by her fantastically strong husband, Andrew Gray, who she sort of sits on like he's a human motorbike. Great climber, but she's in a difficult position, like Mullins and Nayland. No teammates to really be there to work back and chase and do the damage, I suppose. And no responsibility to do so if Mitchelton are sitting on the front. So it's a tricky time for those sorts of individual riders.
Almost the 4-minute mark. And again, it's Kate Perry at the front, setting the tempo. This is up the Midland Highway, and this is very much up the Midland Highway. And then they make the left-hand turn. Oscar Stevenson giving the bidden across there to Kate Perry. He's got the job of looking after her today. Lauren Kitchen taking a bidden from the side of the road as well.
That's her mum, Robbie. Say good day from all of us.
I'll tell you what, the thing is with that long climb, which starts just after they go through the start-finishing line, it's a dead straight road, the Midland Highway. It is the main road to the city of Geelong. And the sort of lead they have, they're not being seen by the peloton. And that, at this stage of the race, is going to depress the peloton.
And it's a road that you know you can see for a 2-minute gap. And if you're not seeing them, then you really do start to get concerned. And they'll come through here, they'll look up to the scoreboard, and they'll see the gap is almost 4 minutes.
And they just hit the line now. So there we have it. The clock has stopped at 3:51.
Now we're seeing the Holden Gusto rider Erin Keneally and her very talented teammate Grace Brown just moving around the corner there. Number 8 is Grace Brown. She will absolutely be their rider to look after, and I think Keneally's now moving to the front to really give her an opportunity. Carly Taylor, obviously the former professional rider, now riding in Australia for the 2018 season. She's on their team as well and was sort of the rider to miss this break of 3.
And Mitchelton Scott, they've put Alex Manley on the front. She's the big favourite for the under-23 category. She won the time trial just a couple of days ago for the 2nd year running. But clearly the under-23 title is not of any great interest to Mitchelton Scott. They want the elite road race title.
I always wonder, it must be a challenging dynamic while you've got 2-time winner Elvin, 2-time winner Spratt. Spratt's obviously the road captain. You can see her there talking to Janelle Crooks on her left, or the left of Gracie Elvin. They've also got Sarah Roy, who actually had a really fantastic performance at the Bergen 2017 Road World Championships, doing her best to try and bridge across to that gap. So a lot of great capability there, and Tiff Cromwell just on the right of the screen with local Shannon Malseed in the Tipco SVB. So everyone's trying to get in a good position now at the climb.
Mitchelton Scott have put their 2 youngest riders on the front. Alex Manley and Janelle Crooks doing the pacemaking. Here are the leaders onto Mount Buninyong.
Well, we'll see how it comes down. 3:51 we were when we came through to start this lap, and it's already down to 3:43. So again, these 3 are riding their own tempo on the climb. They're leaving Kate Perry to do all of the donkey work, because the other 2 feel they've got people, well, in the case of Lawrence Kitchen, she hasn't got any help at all. She's in a bit of a quandary, but for Jessica Allen, she knows all the strength is right behind her on her team.
Rather than riding their own tempo, they're riding Kate's tempo. It's been
That's
Kate.
right. That's right.
It's been Kate the whole time up this climb. Well, last year it was Katrin Garfoot who took the win. This year she starts as the favourite once again, but she's outnumbered.
Not far away.
The final time up the climb is Amanda Spratt and Katrin Garfoot, shoulder to shoulder.
Well, it was something I always wanted to do since I started competing at the Nationals.
Garfoot opens up the sprints. Spratt responds instantaneously. She's now trying to get over the top of Garfoot, but Garfoot is simply too strong. A brilliant performance. Head and shoulders above the rest. She's the Australian champion.
It's a dream come true. The main emotion was relief, being proud as well of myself, of what I've achieved.
Born in Germany, but now proudly Australian, Katrin Garfoot.
It's great. It's a very proud feeling to be that person wearing that jersey all year.
4, 3, 2, 1, go break.
Name your cuisine and you will find it right here in Ballarat. Its eateries serve locally produced gourmet eats accompanied by the region's top drops. Think authentic and full-flavoured Thai, Italian, Japanese, Spanish and Chinese foods, and you will think Ballarat. All looks good enough to eat, doesn't it? As we rejoin the action here now in the Women's National Championship. It's been changing in the last 2 or 3 minutes on the climb up Mount Buninyong. We're up there for the 6th time. The 3 leaders are still together, Jess Allen, Kate Perry and Lauren Kitchen, but the field has been split behind.
And the gap now is down to 2 minutes and 41 seconds. The tactics have completely changed. Jessica Allen is no longer contributing to that breakaway group of 3. Lucy Kennedy, who is now on the front, has blown the peloton to pieces up the climb on that occasion. Sitting behind her is Shara Gillow. Shannon Malseed now in the bright colours with the fluoro helmet. She's looking comfortable, sitting up towards the front. Grace Brown is there for the Holden Gusto team. Amanda Spratt is there. So too is Chloe Hosking in the LA Cipollini colours. The orange and the yellow colours. Cannot miss Chloe Hosking. She's one of the fastest sprinters in the world, clearly with very good climbing legs. Katrin Garfoot, the big pre-race favourite, she's also in this group. But the major news coming out of the peloton is the absence of the multiple podium finisher, Rachel Nayland, she has been dropped.
Absolutely great point, and it's really impressive to see Hosking there. Now we can see, I think that's Sarah Roy attacking on the left-hand side of Mitchelton. No, maybe Gracie Elvin attacking on the left-hand side, trying to really blow things apart here and probably trying to put Garfoot at a disadvantage. Interesting to see the composition here. Then they've got a significant lead. It's over 100 metres now back to people who are chasing, and for Hosking to be there is very impressive.
And look at the numbers for Mitchelton Scott. They have 4 riders in this group with 1 rider up the road.
4 riders.
Who goes next? Loretta Hanson now makes a move. She's caught the bug of attacking.
Well, really great to see that. Sorry, Phil, go.
No, there's only 4 riders of a group of only 14, and 4 on the same team and 1 teammate up the road. Gracie Elvin, 2-time champion, back in 13 and 14 at this event. Now the workhorse to try and put Amanda Spratt back in a winning position.
The most impressive, Chloe Hosking.
Absolutely. Now, she had to fight to get selected for the World Championships in Norway. She and Nayland were added to the team after an appeal when a smaller team was selected, and she rode well on that very hilly course. She's not been known to be a climber, but every year in the past she's raced nationals to be part of the selection capability. So I think she's probably seeing herself, like Hansen, a great sprinter, as someone who's just putting themselves in a good position and probably to follow wheels for the next 30 kilometres.
They have to get rid of Chloe. If it comes down to a sprint finish with Chloe there, Chloe is the unbackable favourite.
Absolutely.
Gracie Elvin tried to attack again. Katrin Garfoot responding. Federation Uni, they're just about to duck through there once again. One of its more famous past students is one of the local heroes, Steve Monaghetti, the great marathon runner who was a student here but also came here regularly to prepare for Olympics and Commonwealth Games by using the university's heat chamber to prepare for those events.
Yes, and the nearby Lake Wendouree, Steve Monaghetti Trail, is just over 6 kilometres long. You can run it, you can walk it, or you can ride it.
You need to ride it to keep up with Mono when he's running it.
Fascinating to see now that damage that's been done on that 1 lap. The gap is down now to 2 minutes. So the number of riders that have been dropped, the chase is probably now around 12 or 13 riders, and now only to 2 minutes.
If you could get into the ear of Kate Perry, number 45 at the back, who's been doing so much work, what would the advice be?
I would now say do nothing. I would say tell the other riders, it's your job now, you're the pro riders, you know, appeal to their experience and their maturity and say you've got more to lose by not taking this jersey overseas. I've done all the great work here.
Oh, Jess Allen's lost all interest now. She's sitting at the back. She's waiting for the arrival of her teammates in the yellow here and black jerseys of Mitchelton Scott. Lauren Kitchen's having to work a little bit harder up there now. She's compromised as well. The gap is 2 minutes and 13 seconds here, inside 40 kilometres to go.
Amanda Spratt on the front, followed then by Katrin Garfoot in the white colours. Garfoot, she's still got the Scott bike and the Scott helmet from her past few seasons with that team. She's now 1 out. And you can see that group scurrying behind to try and get back on. And the leaders, the advantage is going back out ever so slightly. Another attack, Mitchelton Scott attacking again. Chloe Hosking is the rider who is in the wheel.
One of the things about Hosking, and I found this when we raced the Cadell Evans race a couple of years ago, is there were and echelons were forming, and she was incredible in them. Her ability to generate power over 3 to 5 seconds is absolutely second to none. So while she may not be able to climb well, all she has to do is get on a wheel as quickly as possible, and she'll be the one to do that. One
thing you know about Chloe is she won't be caught out of position. It won't be a result of doing the wrong thing. It'll just come down to, is she physically capable of it? And for her to climb the way she did on the previous occasion, with Lucy Kennedy setting the tempo, a World Championship silver medalist Rachel Nayland getting dropped, her confidence would be going through the roof.
One of the things about tailwinds up climbs is that it benefits non-climbers. So a rider like Nayland isn't as assisted. She's a lighter climber who's a climbing specialist. She wants the climb to be as hard as possible. If there's a tailwind, a stronger rider who maybe isn't the specialist is going to be able to be at an advantage.
This is Gracie Elvin, joined by Shannon Mulsey, the local who won the National Road Series last year. She'll be riding across the United States in 2018. And that would be a popular win if Shannon Mulsey was able to get the victory.
Interesting. This is a really dynamic group. Obviously, there's a lot of riders looking around like, hey, it's not my job to chase. And you can see there on the front another specialised teammate. Certainly, it's not her job to chase anything down. I think that's Sarah Roy there who'd attacked on the outside again.
Yeah. Here's a look back to it here. She made the move. They're playing one-on-one here. They're going to crack this peloton wide open on the next lap, I would think, up the climb.
That is Sarah Roy, who's on the front with Shannon Molsey just behind her. Loretta Hanson now doing the chasing in the navy blue colours. 2 minutes, how quickly it changes. Not that long ago we were talking about blowing out to 4 minutes. This is a dangerous group. The winner could come from one of these three. It can turn around so quickly on a difficult course like this around Mount Buninyong.
The challenge will be when, if this break gets caught, is that determining which of these riders has got the better capacity to change pace. And I would say the challenge for someone like Perry is that she's not a change of pace rider. So even if they get caught by this group of 10 or 12, she won't be in a position to then follow really high-paced attacks, whereas Kitchen and Allen definitely will be. It'll just be a matter of how much fatigue they've carried in their legs from holding a constant pace up those climbs.
Well, Lauren Kitchen hasn't stopped talking. We need to mic her up in the future.
She probably feels like she's helping Perry get through the race in the best way. I mean, that's great for Perry as well. She probably helps her, gives her some purpose.
Sounded like she was encouraging Kate Perry on that occasion. You keep going at the front. I'll look after you sitting here. You can take more points in the race for the Ultra Sprint jersey. And the longer you spend on the front, it's the longer that I don't have to.
Interestingly, this is a race held without race radios. Some of the riders, particularly Mitchelton Scott, have staff members that would be giving them information halfway up the climb and probably just over the KOM point. But for a rider like Perry, it wasn't until that car came up to give her a bit of information that she'd be getting any feedback or instructions or support. So it's a little bit of an unfair advantage sometimes to be of the Mitchelton Scott team. They've got greater infrastructure, greater support, and certainly greater numbers back in the chasing peloton.
Kate Perry leading our breakaway group of three. Sitting just behind her in second position is Lauren Kitchen. At the back of the group is Jessica Allen, who's no longer contributing to the pacemaking of this breakaway because her teammates are attacking from the peloton, trying to split the race up.
Yes, the benefit of being on a top team in the world, not just in Australia. The team, Mitchelton Scott, owned by Jerry Ryan, the entrepreneur. And he'll be delighted with the way things are going right now as the pressure again goes on from the pack. They're going to crack this race wide open in the next circuit. And remember, they still have 3 climbs up the Midland Highway.
Mitchelton Scott, they're taking it in turns of attacking as they make the turn now. Coming on to the finishing straight that leads them down into Buninyong. Taryn Heather now at the front.
Great time trialist, and in fact took a bit of time to ride to race Ironman 70.3 last season and did very well racing there. She's a strong runner, but has been a really reliable domestique for the team Specialised.
And coming across, Tiffany Cromwell, one of the pre-race outsiders.
Giving us a chance to see a brand new Canyon strip. They've changed their design slightly this year. She's the only one wearing it in the race today.
Cromwell got a medal in the time trial last year, so just 12 months ago, with an amazing performance on her very beautiful Canyon team time trial bike. And depending on her summer and her preparation, I think you can always judge how she's going to go. And I think she's been training a fair bit over this summer.
They come through, they'll receive 3 laps to go. Kate Perry collecting more points in the race for the Ultra Sprint jersey. No challenge, as has been the case right from the very start, from Lauren Kitchen or Jessica Allen.
Well, she can't lose that competition now, even with the one sprint to come, because she's taken maximum 2 out of 3. It's unlikely she'll be contesting the win now because the gap's showing at 1:59. I think when the chasers come up to the line will be better than that.
I think 2 more laps, this group will want to stay together. No one will want to attack each other, and then there will be a determination based on the gap back to the peloton, if there is one at that time. And then that's when riders will start attacking each other over the KOM.
I don't think there'll be a peloton, quite honestly.
Well, 16 riders they have left in that group of chasing, 5 of which are riding for Mitchelton Scott. So definitely an advantage for that team.
56 riders started the race. We've never had anywhere near that sort of number actually finish the race. Last year, there were 22 riders in the women's race who finished, around at 34 or so in the men's race. Another attack, Mitchelton Scott. This is one of the youngest riders in the race. This is Alex Manley at the front, eligible for the under-23 prize. She won that in the individual time trial.
Being monitored well there by Josie Talbot, who's a teammate of Kate Perry's in the Specialised team, and an under-23 rider. So they're doing a good job, team Specialised, of just monitoring these moves at the front.
So two of the younger riders in the race just sneaking off the front. Not a bad position to be in before they hit the climb. And then if the even stronger climbers like Katrin Garfoot do make an attack, at least they've got a head start. They can hopefully stick with her if she does come past.
Trying to bridge across to this little group of two is Matilda Reynolds from the Rush Women's team, who I think, you know, she's had a terrific crit season over the summer and won the Shimano Sprint season points overall, and with a great result at the Super Crit too. So she's really finding some form. She went off with cycling tips to try and Mount Everest during the season, which was a remarkable attempt at trying to ride up the height of Mount Everest, but even at Everest Base Camp, and I think it was a pretty exciting and fascinating experience for her and the other riders that were involved. So she's now trying to make contact with Talbot and Manley.
The complexion of the race has completely changed in that one lap. Some of those riders who were dropped, they've rejoined the peloton. It's grown ever so slightly, and the light blue colours, the Movistar, Rachel Neyman, she has returned.
Hosking now leading that chase group, so she's having a really terrific race. Certainly someone who probably exceeded our expectations of how she'd perform.
Well, Sophie Smith is down by the side of the road, chatting with one of the representatives from Federation Uni, the new major sponsors of this event. Sophie Smith is with Sue Brown.
I'm with Dr. Sue Brown from Federation University, Australia. Sue, you oversee the sports management program at the university. Can you tell me what the internship involves and if it's now considered an academic field of study?
Yeah, the internship is our students at the last semester of their degree. They have a full-time placement with an organisation, and we have them from national sporting organisations to state to regional. We have state government involved as well. It's the industry. Sport management industry in its own right is a large employer of our, the sport industry, and our students through the internship, we believe that gives them a head start, and we have a very high success rate with employment. We have close to about 88% of our students are employed in the field within the first 6 to 12 months. So we think the internship is part of that success rate.
This is the Fed Uni Road National Championships for 2018. 3 leaders off the front, and it is Kate Perry, number 45, again doing the lion's share of the work as they head up the Midland Highway before turning left onto Mount Buninyong. Behind her was Lauren Kitchen. In third position from that lead group was Jessica Allen. This is back in the main peloton, and again, it's the teammates of Jessica Allen from Mitchelton Scott doing the pacemaking. 1 minute and 52 seconds, that's the deficit for the peloton.
Yes, well, yesterday it was the first pressure. This is the main chase peloton now at the moment. And Manley on the front, not thinking of her under-23 national titles. She's just thinking of getting the team into first across the line in the elite race. There's Katrin Garfoot, defending champion in the white, and trying to play her cards here. She knows the strength of the team that she was a member of until this season. She knows exactly what they're capable of, and she's going to have to be very clever to win this one.
The orange helmet of Chloe Hosking, by contrast to the white jersey of Katrin Garfoot, you can see which one looks more comfortable.
Absolutely.
Out of the saddle in the blue and white colours, that's Shara Gillow, bronze in the time trial, 4-time win event. She dearly loved this title.
Shara has been a strong performer and often ambitious. She's been in early breaks in the last few years where she'd beat out front, maybe with only 1 or 2 other riders. So not afraid to put herself in the wind. But here is now the challenge for her as someone who wouldn't be able to outsprint many of these other riders if they came down to the finish line together. So she needs to be away on her own. And while having Kitchen 2 minutes up the road is helpful for her, she's not necessarily a rider suited to coming in as a large group.
Amanda Spratt about to attack. Yeah. This is the 1-2 from last year, because Katrin Garfoot is right behind her, and Shannon Molesey, the local, she responds, sitting in third place. But this has caught everybody's attention.
I'm not surprised, and Katrin Garfoot playing her cards well there. She knows the strength of Amanda Spratt. Amanda's made no secret of the fact she wants this championship for a 3rd time, and there'll be no surprise to Amanda either when she looks over her shoulder and sees Katrin Garfoot on her back wheel.
Katrin's got to use her resources wisely, and she's not responding to any attacks from Mitchelton Scott, with the exception of ones from Amanda Spratt.
Having had Spratt as her leader on the road when they were in the same team would actually be quite reassuring for someone like Garfoot, and I think we can believe her when she said before the race that she doesn't feel pressure. She's just excited. She had such an outstanding time trial 48 hours ago. She knows that she's the strongest rider here. So in many ways, there's no expectation, even though we all feel that there is, and the odds are that she should win. She's not really feeling that.
Sitting in 4th position, this is the attack from Amanda Spratt. And there's Katrin Garfoot in the white colours right behind her. The other side of the road, Shannon Mulseed, she could smell the move coming. And she got on board straight away.
Yeah, and all the teammates saw Amanda coming and they just twitched and stayed exactly where they were to see if they could open a gap.
That's Garfoot in the white colours, followed by Mulseed. I'm expecting the next move to come from that woman right there, Lucy Kennedy.
Kennedy rode so well one lap ago, didn't she, and really decimated what was a group of around 35, 40 riders into a much smaller group. I think there's 22 now that have made contact. As you said earlier, Nayland has rejoined this group, so back in a good position. She may have just been in bad position when the split happened, and she was strong enough to ride back up and make contact.
Still Kate Perry at the front, collecting more points in the race for the Federation Uni Queen of the Mountains classification. An unassailable lead, but she's riding to the numbers, just sticking at her tempo. She knows what she can do and how long she can hold it for. There's nothing she can do about the chase behind, which is now down to 1 minute and 39 seconds.
Concentration here, but well under control. Katrin Garfoot, she did the double last year, time trial and road race. Road race was perhaps a bonus.
Very smart riding there by Shannon Mulseed, the Portland local, who's sitting on the wheel of Garfoot. Mulseed signed with Tipco SVB and she'll be riding in the US this year, and she won the National Road Series racing for Holden in 2017. Really tenacious, incredibly great climber. You can see by her small frame and stature that she's just absolutely made to go uphill, but also can time trial and sprint quite well, so a real all-rounder.
And really relaxed before the start. Mum and Dad were here as well. Pretty confident that Shannon could pick up a medal. They've got every right to be confident.
Well, I hope she does, because she rides for Tipco, which is a team very close to my heart, because we do a lot of fundraising for that team in America.
Perry picks up some more points on the QOM, now extending her lead. She's at 17 points overall, with Jessica Allen in second, 10 points, and Lauren on third in 9.
And now the peloton there on the steepest part, right near the top. Another attack is going. And it is the Mitchelton Scott colours, and it is Lucy Kennedy with Shara Gillow having to respond. Here goes Kennedy. Last year it was a bronze medal. A little while ago this year it was a silver medal in the time trial, and Kennedy looks phenomenal.
She's a real big gear climber and will get out of the saddle in the big chain ring, and you can see it's impressive. She's the one who did all the damage a lap and a half ago, and here she is now completely obliterating with making Shara Gillow, Garfoot, Spratt chase. You can see then losing contact is Grace Brown from the Holden team and Brodie Talbot from the CBR team.
Now, this is a very, very serious move now, because the peloton is splitting again. It did strengthen halfway around the last lap, some 6-7 riders getting back up to it. I think they'll be dispatched off the back again here. Over the top, 1 minute 20 is the time gap. In fact, our computer's showing now 1 minute 4 seconds to Lucy Kennedy from the 3 leaders. There's the attack again.
And the significance of this move, Bridie, is that Lucy goes, Shara was there, but couldn't stick with her.
Could not hold her wheel, and in fact that was the order of those 2 riders behind Garfoot in the time trial 2 days ago. Kennedy bested Gillow, which was an impressive result by Kennedy, and this is going to do a lot of damage. It's already down to only 1 minute and 8 seconds behind our leading group of 3.
Now from that group behind, they're all looking at each other. Who chases? I know who's not. Amanda Spratt.
Absolutely no need for Spratt to chase, of course, and you can see Garfoot on the left of the screen. She's putting her head down and realises this is probably her opportunity to try and bridge the gap across to her Queensland compatriot in Lucy Kennedy.
Queenslanders haven't been very good at sharing throughout these national championships. In the time trial, they took 1, 2, 3. Garfoot ahead of Kennedy, and then Gillow in third.
It's all that warm weather for training, and Kim Palmer, I think, has been a great guiding light for Garfoot. She's been a great coach for her.
Now the left-hand turn for Lucy Kennedy. This is where she can really start to build up some speed. The top of the climb, the descent doesn't start. It's now that she starts to drift downhill.
Only 2 more climbs to go. So for someone like Kennedy, she doesn't need to do too much to try and gain an advantage on the break in these parts of the course. She just needs to stay safe and not lose any of the gap that she's gained over the chasers.
Now, 1 minute and 7 seconds. That's the advantage for the 3 leaders. Lauren Kitchen, Jessica Allen and Kate Perry. They've been out there since lap number 1. Now the white colours at the front of this select group, that's Katrin Garfoot. This is where the lack of numbers can hurt Katrin Garfoot.
So she's being followed by Malseed, Spratt from Mitchelton Scott, Grace Brown from Team Holden, and Brodie Chapman, who's actually a mountain biker as well, with Loretta Hansen just a bit further back and unable to make contact. Sorry, scratch that. That Hansen is in that group, with Gillow as well.
And that's Grace Brown that takes a look over the shoulder. Here's the leaders once again. And still, Kate Perry at the front setting the tempo. No retreat, no surrender from Kate Perry.
This is absolutely the courageous award from me for her ride today. She's leaving nothing to chance and giving herself every opportunity. And as you said, Phil, you know, she's really worthy of perhaps getting that 6th place in the Uni SA team.
Why not? She's now confirmed as winner of the Queen of the Mountains, rather, and also the sprint competition. All that's left is the finishing line itself and the green and gold jersey of champion.
And they're reeling Lucy Kennedy back in. Brodie Chapman doing the chasing from the CBR women's cycling team based out of Canberra, that team. They've got her. So Lucy Kennedy is back under control, for now at least.
Well, now here's the opportunity for someone like Spratt to go again on the next climb. I think they'll stay all together. There's not much point in trying to attack their descent with still 2.5 laps to go. You're better off saving your energy and then doing the damage on the climb where your impact will be greater. Well, just as I say that,
somebody doesn't agree. Spratty's gone.
While Shannon's trying to get a drink.
There's just a little rise coming up. It's only short, but over the years it has been a springboard. But in the old days we turned left over that rise and went down Fiskin Avenue. Now we don't. We fly down Gear Avenue at 80, 90 kilometres an hour.
This is becoming really tactical in amongst this group.
Stand by for a break.
Spratt at the front, sitting at the back is Lucy Kennedy. Their other teammate, Jessica Allen, is in this leading group of 3 with 28.8 kilometres still to race.
Heading into the month of March, Ballarat will be full on, gathering the grapes that makes the region famous for some fine wines. A warm summer, a cool winter is perfect for the many vines which abound in the region. Its Pinot Noir are among the very best drops. And when it comes time to say cheers to the cycling championships in the month of January, Ballarat and Buninyong are the places to go. Looking down on Federation University, our naming rights sponsors now of these national championships, which have made almost a permanent home here in Ballarat and Buninyong over the years. And over those years, Matt, we've never been treated to a dull event, have we?
No, we haven't. The course doesn't allow that to happen.
So Con just confirming the next break has to be taken after 11:30.
Green and gold jersey for the next 12 months. Amanda Spratt, who's at the front of this group, followed by Grace Brown. Spratt's done it twice.
Assuming this is on time, 11:59 double O.
Introduced at every race as the Australian champion. The defending champion is sitting in second last position. That's Katrin Garfoot. She's left the Mitchelton Scott team. She's been with them for the last few seasons. Her big objective for 2018 is the Commonwealth Games, and then she gets on with normal life. The gap, though, is inside 1 minute for the first time since the opening lap.
Yeah, it's coming, and they're just about to have their tails ahead when they get down to start lap number 8 of 9. But this little very select group know on the next climb up towards Mount Buninyong, the Cubby are coming together.
Shannon Mulseed is at the rear of the group. She knows the course better than anybody in the race. She lives in Ballarat.
Well, there's always been an outstanding cyclist as well, Shannon.
This is Grace Brown at the front for the Holden Gusto racing team. They've dominated the National Road Series for the past 2 years, the domestic circuit, and it was her teammate, Shannon Mulseed, who won that series overall last year. This is now Amanda Spratt at the front, followed by Brown, then Kennedy. Shara Gillow is the next in line in the blue and white colours.
I just saw Shara Gillow chatting with Katrin Garfoot, and I wonder what they're saying.
Well, there's Garfoot in the white colours. She never gives much away, Garfoot, even after the race. And number 1, Jessica Allen, she's been the passenger in this group for the past 2 laps. She's under instructions. This is part of racing. It's the advantage of having the bigger numbers at the head of the race. And Kate Perry, number 45, continues to do the pacemaking. That's Lauren Kitchen sitting in the middle, riding for the French FDJ team with a teammate, Shara Gillow, back in that chasing group, now 1 minute and 10 seconds down.
Now, some of the riders we had spoken about earlier who were favourites are notably not present in this chase group of 7, and that's Rachel Nayland, who's been on the podium 4 times, Tiffany Cromwell, and also, you know, some of the individual riders who are looking to better opportunities, Chloe Hosking, Loretta Hanson. So that's a challenge, and I don't think we're going to see them again, given the motivation of that group of 7, what they're going to need to do over these following 2 climbs.
I should count the show
Look at the
3
expression on the
seconds
face
early,
of
is
Kate
that
Perry
right?
at the front. In comparison to the composure of Kitchen and Allen.
No, hats off today to Kate. She's really driving along. Now, the cars on the left have been moved over. That is a bad sign, I'm afraid. It means that the chasers there might be contacting the group up front.
This is Rachel Nayland in the light blue colours of Movistar. She's been dropped the last 2 times up the climb, but she's rejoining. And that's why those cars were moving over. It was for the chasers. Back to the chasers to make a peloton once again.
This is what happened last lap. Well, we didn't notice last lap, but they suddenly swelled to about 25 riders.
Through the slight chaos of riders trying to attack and get away, riders like Talbot or Malseed, what we're seeing then, of course, is this second chase group of now 9, 10 riders recontacting again with the 7. So we've got a group of around 16 riders that are all going to come into the start-finish line with 2 laps to go and a gap of around 1 minute and 14 seconds to the leaders of 3.
And from that second group that's rejoined, 4 riders from Mitchelton Scott. So all 7 riders from Mitchelton Scott are in the business end of the bike race.
Extraordinary numbers for them. Now, you could argue that Crooks and Manley and Roy, who've recontacted, probably don't have enough juice, that one of them might need to launch some sort of back up the climb, the penultimate climb in about 3 kilometres time, just at least to force a chase.
And this is really impressive. The tall rider with the specialised colours on the left-hand side of the screen, that is Ashley Ann Kudinoff. She's one of the stars of the track, a contender to be part of that Australian team in Tokyo to potentially win Olympic Games gold medal. Huge focus on that. There she is wearing number 2, stretching her lower back out. She's riding brilliantly.
As is Chloe Hosking, has rejoined the group, and you can see Loretta Hanson there, Justine Barrow, number 3, the Rush women's team rider, Malseed in the centre, number 36, and Garfoot sitting very comfortably, number 18, in the white jersey.
So, 2 laps to go. This is 8 of 9 as they go underneath, and the official gap is 1 minute and 33 seconds. So again, they've stretched it out on the run down through Warren Heath through that finish and start line.
And Alex Manley now goes to the front for the Mitchelton Scott team. She's got the job. She was distanced the previous time up the climb, so she knows that she's not personally a contender for the elite victory, although still a favourite for the under-23 title. So she is sacrificing everything, going to the front and setting a really solid tempo at the base of the climb. Lucy Kennedy, the tall, lanky rider from the Mitchelton Scott team, just moving around the outside.
You can see how quickly Garfoot moves across the road to get there, and Sarah Roy and Amanda Spratt, both Mitchelton Scott teammates, are there to monitor every move.
This is a huge move. Watch this now. This is a massive acceleration right at the bottom of the Midlands Highway. This is going to hurt, and it's going to knock this race apart now, I think.
Spratt's still looking very comfortable. You can see Grace Brown, the NRS rider in the Holden clothing, just trying to follow that move again.
And it's the same riders that we saw go over the top last time. Spratt in front, followed by Garfoot. And then it is Malseed. Kennedy is the next in line. Sharagillo slots in and desperately trying to hold on at the back, but under some serious pressure, that's Grace Brown.
So the only rider not there is Brodie Talbot from the CBR team, who was getting dropped a little the last time up the climb. So they now have, 1.5 climbs to go, and this is really where the damage is going to be done. What I'd be interested to know, though, is how Kate Perry and Kitchen are feeling. They know that if they can hold on to this 1 minute advantage for one more lap, really, Allen and Kitchen are just going to attack Perry, and one of those riders can win.
And Jessica Allen should be the freshest almost in the race. She's not been doing much work at all out in front. This is Kennedy again. Look at the size of the gear. Sharagillo is riding in the blue colours, grinding to try and stick with Kennedy.
Just a little gap there between Gillow and Garfoot, isn't there? Look, Garfoot looks very comfortable in the white jersey, but she's allowed a couple of bike lengths to extend, and that might be that she's just not got the pace to go with Gillow, but...
Or is it tactical?
She's human.
She's on her own. She can't mark every move, and she's chosen she's going to go wherever Spratty goes.
And she can give them a little bit of distance, and that's something for her to chase with a counter-attack. We'll find out soon enough. But guess who's setting the tempo at the front of the climb?
No prizes. Kate Perry.
Of course. Here she is again. Kate Perry. What a ride.
Brilliant ride today.
This is Lauren Kitchen. Jessica Allen at the back of the group. Somebody on the side of the road hedging their bets. Go, Lauren, go, Jess.
And no mention of poor Kate doing all the work at the front.
Yeah, I think she's got a lot of fans. Certainly in the feed zone, we saw a lot of people, particularly local riders who know Kate very well and go training with her. They'd be really, really excited to see her performing so well today. It's just brilliant.
She is one of the great local identities in cycling in Melbourne. She supports a lot of riders with plenty of encouragement along the way, coaches many of the riders as well. And now she's demonstrating, not do as I say, but do as I do.
Yeah, it's very impressive. But again, we also, as athletes, we do what suits us. And she's not a sit-in-and-wait sort of rider. And so she'd be mentally much more comfortable in this position than another situation where she'd be watching and waiting for things to happen. Whereas Peter Mullins is the sort of rider that would have been much more comfortable sitting in a group, as would be Nayland. So great riding by Nayland. In fact, I don't think we can exclude those group, that second group that made contact, that had Hosking and Hansen and Nayland. I don't think we can rule them out just yet.
We've got to be getting close, though.
Yeah. This is the penultimate time. We'll turn left to head up towards Mount Buninyong. They're very lucky we turned left at the top before we got onto the mountain itself, because it's a no-through road, in effect, so they can't race up there.
And just off in the distance, as Amanda Spratt sets the tempo, we can see the chase from Brodie Chapman and Loretta Hansen. They need to get across quickly before it gets steep.
Absolutely, Matt, they do. And then be in contact for the descent so they can get the best advantage.
So they can recover. As opposed to spending all time chasing to the bottom of the climb again for the explosion to happen.
I've made that mistake on climbs when I've been dropped from a big group and you think, oh, I'll get back on, and then you start descending down the other side of the Motorola or the Stelvio and you never get back on.
Here are the leaders. Still Kate Perry setting the tempo. She'll go out a comfortable winner of the Federation Uni Queen of the Mountain classification. Likewise with the Altus Sprint classification. What other prizes can she collect? 39 seconds the gap. It's not a lot, is it?
Spratt is doing a fantastic job here, and she and Kennedy have obviously got an advantage with two riders, but I think it's just a question of how many more attacks someone like Lucy Kennedy can generate and whether or not they can do enough damage with 1 lap to go.
I agree, Bridie. They're down to 2 riders now, and one is the favourite right on the front there, Amanda Spratt. They've done, I think, everything right, but it's not yet working out for them because they could lose everything here.
And the wind is clearly coming from their right shoulder. Amanda Spratt tight in that left gutter to try and prevent anybody from getting an additional advantage sitting behind her. But Catherine Garfoot, she knows the game. In the white colours, just following Amanda Spratt. Keep doing your thing, Amanda.
You made a great point, Phil, about them doing everything right. We've seen since Orica Green Edge the team began, they've won every national championships here except the year that Mullins won in 2015. And that was in a small sprint, and Mullins clearly had the speed, and Nayland was second, who was riding for that team. So generally they have the numbers and they do everything right and they come away with a gold medal, and you get a sense that they might be starting to think that it may not unfold that way this year.
Well, Garfoot looks very cool. She said before the start, no pressure. She can enjoy her day today because she's not on the big team anymore. She's thinking of a Commonwealth Games gold medal in the time trial in April. Lucy Kennedy has given some good shots out there, but is she in a little bit of trouble now, I wonder?
You can see Shara Gillow sitting in second last position. She's anticipating another move from Lucy Kennedy. 19 seconds, it's almost back together at the front. The leading group with Kate Perry at the head of affairs, followed by Lauren Kitchen and Jessica Allen, almost caught.
Now, I think, you can see Kitchen looking around. She's already preparing herself.
Here goes Kennedy once again. Yep. Garfoot responding. Oh, Kennedy was just waiting at the back. It gets steep, and she goes. Garfoot, though, no problems.
Spratt monitoring there, number 56, and you can see Shannon Malseeds just trying to hold Spratt's wheel as they go over the steepest part of the climb. Clearly, Lauren's been looking back and seeing that they're approaching, and she and Jessica Allen would be preparing themselves to join this group and be part of any move that happens.
Kate Perry again over the top of Mount Buninyong under the Federation University arch. 40 seconds now, the gap telling us.
That was an interesting move, but to see Lucy tried it this time, but it didn't open up. The others played very close attention. Shannon Malseed has had no problems answering all the attacks either.
Hasn't she been good?
Yes, she has been good. You know, there could be a surprise result coming up here.
This is the next group on the road. This is the group that contains Chloe Hosking. Ashley Ann Kudinoff is also in this group. So too is Rachel Nayland. Taryn Heather is in the group.
And then the remaining Mitchelton Scott riders, Sarah Roy, Manley and Crook. So if things could make contact again, they'd be in a very good position to lead out a rider like Roy, for example, or Amanda Spratt.
Here's another look at the move from Lucy Kennedy. From the back in an attempt to try and catch them by surprise. And Amanda Spratt waiting for somebody else to go, quite clearly, with her teammate being the one launching that attack.
See how quick Garford.
Yeah, exactly,
yeah.
Phil.
Yeah.
She just was on the wheel so quickly. No problem there getting the pace back on.
Spratt going again with Garfoot not responding. This time it's Shara Gillow who gets into the wheel of Amanda Spratt.
What they've got to do now is keep away from the rest of the peloton and then fight it out on the last climb themselves.
The one rider who hasn't attacked from that group, Katrin Garfoot.
Oh, yeah, true.
But at least she's paying attention to two riders on Mitchelton.
Hi, Mariana.
Well,
I'm just looking ahead to our next.
We should disclose that Matt Beck, Sheep Station,
you know how we're on at
today, so he's absolutely backing her as a favourite. No questions asked.
I'm just wondering, we've got the men's race at 1400, but we don't mind
followed by Shara Gillow, and these are the chasers at 31 seconds behind our three leaders.
To hit that at
Shannon Molson
1400?
closes it down, that fluoro yellow helmet. There in the white colours is Katrin Garfoot. Grace Brown is next in line. At the back of the group is Lucy Kennedy.
So if we're late
we heard Pat Shaw yesterday talking in the very windy conditions for the under-23 men about how important it is to really stay close to the wheels in this part of the race, particularly through Federation University and the descent. You don't want to just allow a gap to open up, because at high speeds you're never going to get back on and make contact again, particularly as your legs are getting more and more fatigued. So staying close together for these riders, even though this might seem like the easier part of the course, is actually so vital to keeping a good position.
What we do know about Katrin Garfoot is she won't lose her nerve. The World Championships last year, she was hugely outnumbered by the Dutch. There was only 7 or 8 in that lead group with 3 Dutch riders there. She was on her own. She knew she couldn't chase anything. She rolled the dice, she took a risk. She ended up collecting the silver medal as opposed to the much wanted gold, but she was calm and she stuck to the plan. Whatever the plan is today, she's sticking to it.
That was an outstanding sprint by Garfoot at World Championships last year, particularly after a strong time trial performance as well. So we know she's got the power. She's even sprinted away from the peloton at the Ladies Tour of Qatar on a flat course, definitely more powerful than sprinters like Kirsten Wild and other world-class sprinters. So we know she can generate ridiculous amounts of power. It'll just be a matter of timing, really.
Kate Perry on the front. And Jessica Allen sitting at the back, taking a look across the shoulder, just assessing the situation. The chasers make the turn, and they're not far behind as Lucy Kennedy goes to the well one more time.
You can see Hansen and Talbot, Brodie still trying to make contact there. They're just sort of tantalisingly close to this group of 6, but they can't make contact.
This is dangerous. This little gap that's now opening up, Garfoot might be prepared to work with Lucy Kennedy to get away from the likes of Amanda Spratt, who is a reasonably quick sprinter, and Lucy Kennedy, she's not a fast sprinter, and Garfoot would back herself against her.
Absolutely. Difficult position for Kennedy then, because she really should continue to sprint, but to chase, I should say, but you wouldn't want to do that with someone the likes of Garfoot on your wheel.
It doesn't look as if Katrin's all that keen in the white colours to work with Lucy Kennedy.
Can't blame her. She's playing her own cards here.
Spratt again.
Spratty's gone far right, and again Garfoot this time waiting for somebody to take up the chase.
Malsey tried to go, but yeah, couldn't quite get there.
Amanda Spratt, she gets a little bit of breathing space. The look across the shoulder really quickly. Tactically, there aren't much better than Amanda Spratt. There's Molsey. She goes across. And Shannon will work.
Yeah, absolutely she will. She'll be highly motivated to work.
And there are the 3 leaders, so they've almost coming together at the front of the race.
Now that was a very, very intelligent attack by Amanda Spratt. She waited till she saw Garfoot a little bit blocked in there. On the only rise on this stretch of road, she jumped on it. Now we're going downhill towards the right turn into the Federation Uni.
And Kate Perry almost could have been on a breakaway on her own and still have been in the same position.
Absolutely. She's ridden incredibly well and has, as you say, dictated the pace for the last 74 kilometres.
37 seconds is the gap as we swing into the grounds here. A little bit of a speed wobble. Shannon Malsey turning out to be a real aggressive rider. I think I'm right in saying she comes from Ballarat, doesn't she?
She is one of the locals. She's lived here for the last few years, and there's the front of the race. So close. They can almost reach out and grab them, but still great concerns about what's happening behind.
You can see Spratt's trying to get Malsey to help her out with working, but I mean, Malsey, a rider like Malsey's under no obligation to help out Mitchelton Scott.
Do you think she should work with her though? Because this gives Shannon Malsey a chance to get away from Garfoot.
Well, there's no should in bike racing, is there? We often talk about who deserves to win, but often the riders that are smarter and perhaps more selfish get themselves into a better opportunity. So Malsey is not going to work unnecessarily. She's not going to be bullied, or not that Spratt's not a bully, but she's not going to be cajoled into working just because. I think she'll be smart to sit on, knowing that Spratt's thinking, I've really got to get away from Garfoot. So Spratt's desire to get away from Garfoot is stronger than Malsey's desire to work.
And Spratt is the one with the pressure. And now Shannon goes through to the front. She does work ever so slightly, or does she?
Not so sure. She's going to have a chat. Yeah, she's going to give it a go. This is the undulations of the campus itself here in the Federation University, Australia.
Only 15 seconds now, and they can see the riders ahead.
And this is smart by Shannon Malsey. The best place for her to do a turn of pace is when it's slightly uphill, because it's at that point where there's less drafting advantage of sitting on. And as soon as she gets to the crest, she's into the slipstream.
Yeah.
Bike IQ through the roof.
Very strong. And then she's seen to be contributing to this chase group, so she can't get, you know, any abuse from anyone.
How to win friends and influence people in a bike race. Do a few turns at the right time.
I think Shannon's riding a very intelligent race just at the moment. She knows that Amanda Spratt has got to take advantage. It's the first time the whole race she's shaken off Garfoot.
Not far away from the break.
Timco is the team that Ruth Corset was riding for in 2010 when she won Road World Championships. So they've had an Australian champion in their team before, wearing the green and gold all year round in America.
And we saw just through that right-hand turn the bike handling skills of Amanda Spratt. She opened up a gap on Shannon Malsey. And now we can see the leaders. 12 seconds, not much at all.
For the first time for almost 8 full laps of the circuit, the leaders are in the gun sights, but only of 2 chasers, including 2-time champion Amanda Spratt.
Spratt again through one of those corners, and Shannon is having to chase to get back onto the wheel. She's all class, Amanda Spratt. She's world class.
Really doing the damage on the legs, obviously, to accelerate out of those corners when you're already tired, even though it's not a very hot day. Certainly all that climbing at high pace has taken it out of Shannon's legs a little.
And Amanda Spratt, recently she's announced that she's not going to make herself eligible to ride the Commonwealth Games. She wants to focus on the big Ardennes races, the spring classics in Europe.
Yeah, this is the unfortunate date clash with the Commonwealth Games in general, because the men have got the same problem.
The beauty of a rider like Spratt, though, is she's achieved so much over such a long career. She's been an amazing domestic for others. She's a road captain. She's gone to 2 Olympics. So she doesn't have to prove anything to us, and she can pick and choose the races that she feels will best tap into her ability. And I think that's a great position for her to be in. She's such a trailblazer from 10, 15 years ago.
Making the left-hand turn, heading back towards Buninyong. This time through, they'll hear the bell. Garfoot now having to spend some energy and do the chasing.
Now, in order for this group of 5 to succeed, obviously, they need to work hard. Otherwise, it would become a group of 11 again.
The catch is on, and now number 1, Jessica Allen. As soon as she sees the arrival of Amanda Spratt, she goes to the front. She goes too quickly. Lauren Kitchen slips in, and finally Kate Perry can sit on a wheel, but no rest. This is hard.
Kate's got to hang on in there now. We want to see her survive this race to the finish, but she's already unhitched. She's checking who's coming up behind, and that chase is getting back on terms. 5 women, including Catherine Garfoot. She's swinging off the front just now, desperate to close this gap before the last assault of Mount Buninyong.
Importantly for Garfoot, she's got allies here, because we see going through to the front that Shara Gillow chasing. Next in line, number 8 is Grace Brown. Then in the blue colours is Loretta Hanson, and number 10 is Brodie Chapman.
5 individuals, none of whom have teammates except for Gillow, who has Kitchen up the road. So they all have high motivation to make contact again.
And Grace Brown now going through to the front to chase. It's Jessica Allen who is driving this group down towards the bell.
Well, it's been a very aggressive race, this one. It's been excellent.
When they cross this line, they'll have one more time up the climb, obviously, and that's going to be really the defining part of the race. Every rider who climbs well is going to want to get away at that point, not wanting to come into the finish with 10 riders, because they know that they will be outsprinted by Garfoot. And the minor placings might be taken by riders such as Malseed or Spratt.
Amanda Spratt, she makes her way to the front. She's won here twice before. They're not far away from getting the bell. Can she win for a third time?
Winning the Australian Championship is the perfect way to start a year.
2012 is reborn here in Buninyong in 2016 for Amanda Spratt.
I think when I crossed the line there and I put my arms up in the air saluting, did a little bit of a scream of joy, just happiness, relief, excitement. It's just nice to see all that hard work pay off for myself, for my team, and a sprint finish too for me was really exciting.
4, 3, 2, 1, go Bridie.
We are down to the final lap in the Fair-Uni Road National Championships. A select group at the front with just 11.6 kilometres remaining. Jessica Allen from Mitchelton Scott. She's been in the breakaway all day long. She supported the moves of Amanda Spratt. And now at the front, it is Shara Gillow who's trying to break away. She's won the individual time trial 4 times, but never the road race. And for Gillow, she can't afford for it to come down to a sprint finish. She needs to go on her own. And this is all that remains in contention to take home the green and gold jersey.
I've just got an update about this race.
Once again,
we reckon it's going to finish a couple of minutes to 2:12.
Having a teammate in
just wondering if we can get off at 5 past 12.
It's not been an opportunity they've had in the past to have a teammate here at National Road Championships, and you can see Gillow's really giving it everything.
All right, thank you.
They're still on the Midland Highway before they make the left-hand turn to go on to Mount Buninyong itself and the steepest part of the climb. Number 36, that is Shannon Malseed, the local favourite. Number 18, the defending champion, Katrin Garfoot. Lauren Kitchen is there as well. Number 31, she's been in the break all day. Number 8 is Grace Brown. Number 10 is Brodie Chapman. 56, Amanda Spratt, looking for win number 3.
And looking, I think, for where Lucy Kennedy is as well. She just looked over her shoulder. She's planning one last move before the top of the mountains, and she's going to try and take a few deep breaths at the back of this group. Number 56. They swing off the Midlands Highway. Little kicker will bring them over Mount Buninyong, and it's eyes down for the finish, and it hasn't quite gone the way that Amanda Spratt was anticipating.
Did you note the look on the face then of Shara Gillow as they made the left-hand turn, assessing everybody at the table with cards to play?
Only 7 riders remain now, with 1 time up the KOM climb, so the steepest part of the climb to come. But we have seen how the pace has changed a little when Spratt and Malseed were chasing down through Fair-Uni. That is a section of the course that could really determine the outcome as well here for these 7 riders.
Amanda Spratt at the back. Is she waiting to launch one more big attack on this climb?
Great riding by Brodie Chapman. She's lost contact a couple of times, and now we can see Loretta Hanson, who's made her way back into this group. The rider from the United States team, United Healthcare, has ridden so well today.
And riding smartly, not just sitting at the back. She moves to the front. So if there is an attack, there's a few bike lengths to come past her, and then potentially
like 5 past the
she's
hour
still in
or
contact.
even 10 past the hour. Do I have to fill to the nearest 5 seconds, or can we get off at any time?
Any one of these could make it on the running to the line. This is the
We're ready
last
to
big
wrap up
challenge on
at
the
3
course.
past 12 or 8 past 12. Is
Get
that
rid of
okay?
riders when they're tired, and don't let them back. Loretta Hanson is putting
Okay, so
herself back in action.
no hard off air really.
And Garfoot out the front of the white colours.
Okay, great.
She won the individual time trial by almost 2.5 minutes. If she gets out of the saddle, everybody else is going to get out of the saddle. If she has a drink, everybody else has a drink. Perhaps if she has a drink, Amanda Spratt attacks.
A rider like Hanson will definitely want this group of 8 to make it to the finish altogether. And
Kate Perry in the distance, clawing her way back.
Just maintaining that really impressive pace. She doesn't have the ability to change the pace the way someone like Garfoot would, as she really now puts the hammer down.
Garfoot now goes. She looks across into the eyes of her rivals and decides this is the moment. But that's not quite full-blooded. Gillow is able to respond. So too is Malseed. Grace Brown is there. Amanda Spratt. It's only Loretta Hanson who's been distanced.
I think some of these moves are actually just about getting rid of the women who have speed, who might be able to outsprint her, because if she can't get away up over the KOM, she'll want this to come together and she'll be able to outsprint everyone. But if Hanson's there, it just puts the danger for someone like Garfoot.
And for Mitchelton Scott, Lucy Kennedy is still off in the distance. They started this race with a huge numerical advantage, and now it is Spratt who goes, trying to drive it home. Garfoot knows that this is serious. The pocket rocket is on the move.
You can see Malseed really cleverly following Garfoot's wheel as well. She's got a much better climbing ability than some of the other riders in this group.
It's crunch time.
Spratt, Garfoot, Malseed, Gillow and Kitchen just hanging on to her teammate's wheel there, which is a very impressive ride by Kitchen to be there with Gillow up over the top of this climb.
And all of a sudden, a team that started with only 2 riders, they're the ones with the numerical advantage. Gillow, she fights on again. The Queenslander is attacking.
Good sign of strength here. And Garfoot is now putting herself very much in the hot favourite position to win this race at the end. She has monitored everything when it's mattered. She's read it right so far. And I think Amanda Spratt, although she's tried everything, nothing has finally succeeded for her. She slips back to second from the end.
When Lauren Kitchen won her silver medal in 2:14, she admits that she dragged Gracie Elvin back up over the KOM when things split apart, and she knew that that was going to be to her detriment, but if she didn't ride and make contact, she would have never got a silver medal, and Elvin came over the top of her to win gold, which was amazing. But my money might be on Kitchen if they come in together as a group of 5.
Remember that Lauren Kitchen in the breakaway from lap number 1 has tagged on to the back of the last 5 riders going down for the medals.
And is Amanda Spratt planning her next attack?
Or is she getting dropped? She actually manoeuvred Kitchen to get in front of her, but I'm not sure whether that was her last chance of victory, and it didn't work.
And Grace Brown has returned along with Bridie Chapman, and Brown now is attacking.
Terrific work by Grace Brown, and this is what we see in that final lap. People attack, then the pace slows back down, and the riders that have been gapped like Hanson, Brown and Chapman can regain contact, so they need to stay confident and hopeful that the race isn't over until the final part of the line.
Well, Grace Brown, her favourite quote is, "Don't try it, you might like it."
Well, she was unlucky in the time trial, 4th place, no medal, but can it change here in the elite road race?
Back together again.
You can see Garfoot looking around. She's riding there in the white jersey in 4th wheel and allowing some of the riders to go ahead of her, so she's in a better position to visualise what's happening and who's attacking.
And Bridie Chapman in the CBR Women's Cycling Team colours, sitting there in 3rd position. She's been off the back, clawed her way back on. And she's one of the riders that could attack and sneak under the radar. The next move going, it's Kitchen. And she's throwing the sink at them to boots.
They really do need to use their numerical advantage, these two. They don't want to come away without the win, given that there's 2 of 7 in this group.
I don't know where Lauren's finding the legs from now. She must be extremely tired.
Well, how smart was she doing the breakaway? You're making the most of Kate Perry. And she just kept encouraging Kate. You keep getting those Queensland
You're going great, girl. Yeah, Kitchen's a really smart rider, and she's very calm and collected. We saw her in a significant break at the Richmond 2015 World Championships with Valentina Scandalara. They were away for a long time before the last lap, so she's very smart and knows what to do for a teammate, which is fantastic.
Well, number 18, Katrin Garfoot, I expected a vicious attack from her on the climb, and it didn't come.
No.
Maybe the legs haven't quite recovered from that big effort in the individual time trial, which was on Thursday.
Turning left now towards the final turn into the Federation Uni.
Dangerous time with 7 kilometres to go in some of these corners, but you can see every single rider is looking around at everybody else to see who's going to attack and when.
Which says to me that they're all on the limit.
Absolutely.
They're afraid of each other now and of what's coming up behind.
For the 3 riders who aren't as high profile and haven't won here before, riders like Malseed, Chapman and Brown, they have absolutely nothing to lose. So those riders are actually a little bit of an advantage. And I'm really hopeful that one of those girls will get a medal. I mean, we've got such capacity in the women who race professionally, like Gillow, Kitchen, Garfoot and Spratt. But for those 3 riders who race domestically to still be here in this group of 7 is really, really impressive.
It is, and that individual time trial win for Katrin Garfoot was on Friday as opposed to Thursday. So the 48 hours as opposed to 72, that can be a difference. Grace Brown, nothing to lose, Grace Brown. So here it goes. And this little rise is Bridie Chapman who is responding. She doesn't need to. There's others with more at stake. She'd be well advised to sit on, let the bigger names do the chasing, and then try and have a go of her own right.
Absolutely. It's often the way that as the individual riders you can almost work together, not as a team, but you're allowing the bigger name riders to do the work. And I feel like Chapman should do that. She should let some of the bigger name riders, particularly a Française de Jeu team, chase.
Brodie's on the front there at the moment. Grace Brown has opened up a few seconds as they go past the old route, which went off to the left there. Now we're heading down Gear Avenue, right turn for the last time.
Grace Brown and I rode the St Kilda Club Team Time Trial Championships together a bit earlier this year, and she is incredibly strong. I had a lot of trouble holding on to her wheel. So she knows how to time trial. She obviously came fourth 48 hours ago, and she has nothing to lose here by riding her heart out for the next 5.5 kilometres.
Number 10, Bridie Chapman, she swings off. Shara Gillow rolls through to the front. And now Shara Gillow in this group, with her teammate being there, Lauren Kitchen. Gillow is not a fast finisher. She'd be the first to admit that. She's got the responsibility to chase in the hope that it's Kitchen who can collect the green and gold jersey.
I think Grace Brown might be pretty inspired by her younger teammate, Sarah Gigante, who's won 3 gold medals this week. And what a result that would be for the team Holden Gusteau to have another medal in the Elite Women's Road Race. And really impressive riding. But you can see now that the contact is probably going to be regained. There's a lot of motivation by these international riders to make contact again and get to the front.
Into Federation Uni for the last time for the Australian Championships, and appropriately, Federation Uni is where the inventor of Vegemite went to university, and it couldn't get any more Australian than that at the National Championships.
There's Gillow with a good turn on this little rise in the Federation grounds, bringing the gap down to a second or two. Nobody going to help her as they all look at each other again. Malseed behind Gillow.
And look at where Garfoot has got herself placed. In the white colours, directly behind her former teammate, number 56, Amanda Spratt. And it was those two who went 1-2 12 months ago.
You're right about Gillow. She's going to be working now to get Kitchen into the best position for a sprint finish in this group of 7.
And Kitchen, in the blue colours, number 31, is trying to work out where to be. She wants to be with Garfoot and Spratt, but they want to stay behind her.
Yeah, very interesting dynamic and a very good opportunity for Brown's lead to just be extended. I mean, you can see Talbot wanting to put herself in a good position now behind Gillow's wheel. She's riding there next to Malseed. And we haven't seen Malseed put herself in a dangerous situation in the last few kilometres. So she's been sitting a bit quietly. She's won sprints in small groups before. She won the Oceania Championships that were in Bendigo 18 months ago from a small sprint. She's very quick to finish, but I just don't know if she's got the power to get across someone like Garfoot.
I'll tell you in 3.9 kilometres whether she does or not.
I'll tell you what, Matt, this race is ripe for a surprise win now, because the two defending champions, 1 and 2, are right at the back of the race. They're marking each other. There's the chances ripe for somebody we may not talk about on a regular basis to slip away here and take the jersey.
And again,
taken too.
Shannon Malseed paying the price for the bike handling skills, not quite been on par with the others. The gap opening up through the corners, so she spends energy to chase back into the slipstream like she did 1 lap ago when she was off the front with Amanda Spratt.
Now here we are essentially all together again, and the road is dead straight and fast down into the finish. So they'll be heading with sort of some slight crosswinds, but nothing too significant. It's not too hot. They've now been racing for around 89 kilometres, and it's going to be very interesting to see. You've got Garfoot now, final wheel. She's last wheel behind Amanda Spratt, who's sitting on the wheel of Lauren Kitchen, and Malseed is just in front of her, just allowing 3 or 4 bike lengths now, extending to Kitchen's teammate, Shara Gillow.
Garfoot at the back is in the perfect position. It's Bridie Chapman at the front. They've caught Grace Brown, who sits in 2nd position. 3rd place is Shara Gillow. It's then Shannon Malseed, followed by Lauren Kitchen, Amanda Spratt, Katrin Garfoot. One of them will be the Australian champion.
Could this be a year that there's not a Mitchelton Scott in the green and gold jersey? And I think that's a pretty remarkable effect, given that they had 7 starters. So it's not, as you say, Phil,
and rode
turned
well.
out. Yeah, they've ridden very well.
These girls have been tenacious and not been afraid of big reputations, which I like to see.
Not far away from the final left-hand turn.
Wants to see the corner first. First the year in the Tipco colours. It's an American team run by Linda Jackson, who's a Canadian, once a bronze medalist in the World Road Race Championship herself. She'll be very proud with the new signing. She'll meet her in Adelaide next week.
Shara Gillow, she spent the last few seasons riding for the FDJ team, the only Aussie on that squad until 2018. Now she's got Lauren Kitchen, and wouldn't she love to make the announcement to the French, we have won our national title. She's doing the job, and now Kitchen's moving forward as Garfoot now attacks.
And no reaction.
Is the moment where last year in the men's race it was Miles Scottson who went solo, and they never saw him until the presentation. He's a strong time trialist. Garfoot is one of the very best in the world, and now the reaction has to come instantaneously as Garfoot has got some distance.
She's gone earlier than Miles went last year as well. She's got the long descent once she gets onto it, down towards the finishing line. We know how strong she is, and they've made a mistake here.
They have, and there's even hesitation as riders are looking around to see who will do the work, and that's stalling.
Gillow has to go to the front right now. You cannot wait. And there is Gillow, number 19, and she is waiting.
3K to go, and they've allowed the champion defending to get away. There's no reaction. She's going to win this.
Absolutely the winning move, and perfect timing, as you said, Matt. She was on the left-hand side and people weren't looking at where she was, and she really just generated a huge amount of power for that first minute of her attack.
In the individual time trial, she won by 2 minutes and 24 seconds. She's so much stronger than the rest. Grace Brown is now chasing. Gillow moves into second position.
They can't afford this. They've got to change and keep changing and drive. Otherwise, she's gone. She's heading towards the final kilometre.
Chapman trying to move forward. There's the 1 kilometre marker. And now Gillow, who was the third place finisher in the individual time trial, has to defy the odds and reel Garfoot back in.
They're not going to get her. There's just too much of a gap. They've both got a similar amount of speed and clearly not generating enough power to make an impact on this lead that she's got. It's so impressive.
And for the others, like Mulseed and Spratt, if they chase, they destroy their chances in the sprint finish anyway. Tactically perfect and physically dominant. Katrin Garfoot is going to win for a second year in a row, and she's going to do the double for a second year in a row. And now for the Queenslander, it's just the contemplation of the celebration.
Well, I'll tell you, with Federation University Australia sponsoring this race for the first time, they've got themselves a very intelligent, powerful woman to take the championship. They're coming forward, but it's too late.
Here she comes, Garfoot. The sprint is on behind her. They are closing in quickly. They may well get her. And it's Shannon Mulseed. It's Kitchen. It's Mulseed of Ballarat who gets the win. She defies the odds. They catch Garfoot, who crumbled, and Mulseed has succeeded.
And absolutely sensational finish for Mulseed. She's thrilled, so thrilled. What the timing of that sprint was amazing, really amazing.
She just faded.
Absolutely.
She faded, the legs locked up. It was all that fraction too soon. Shannon Mulseed has given Tipco a terrific victory here. First race she's ever done in the colours this week. And now she's off to Adelaide as the champion of Australia. Amazing.
Lauren Kitchen in second position. Grace Brown hugs her former teammate. She's in third place. And Amanda Spratt-Shaw, she's fourth, but she's still smiling. What a win for Shannon Mulseed.
This has been a long time coming for Mulseed. She's just performed so well in all domestic races in Australia, the National Road Series, Oceania Championships, and racing overseas in the development team. What a comprehensive victory in that sprint.
Mulseed, Kitchen, Brown, Spratt, and then caught with 50 metres to go. Fifth place, Garfoot, then Chapman. What a race.
Look at that.
She looked gone for all money.
Incredible, incredible. And clearly her performance 48 hours ago in the time trial took some glycogen out of those muscles. I think we all imagined she was superhuman. Really fantastic result and really confident sprint by Mulseed.
The composure of Mulseed, not to get sucked into doing the chasing. She let the others do the job, and then when she went, she stayed gone.
Great result by Brown as well for a bronze medal. That is a fantastic result, and I'm sure her coach Flick is absolutely pumped.
And two riders who last year rode together on the Holden women's racing team, sandwiched in the middle with the silver medal. Again, the silver medal for Lauren Kitchen. a little bittersweet. Great ride, but gold is so much nicer.
Absolutely. Look, I think everyone's thrilled too that the jersey will be going overseas. It'll be being raced in Australia and in America and perhaps even in Europe with Tipco SVB, and I'm sure Linda Jackson will be thrilled to see her new rider, Malseed, in those colours. There's her father. He's been an incredible supporter of Shannon, driving her to races, attending, helping her out and supporting her for a long time.
Did you read her lips then? Oh my God. And that's her boyfriend coming through, who'll be riding the men's race a little bit later on this afternoon. And teammates, former teammates running down to embrace her. There's Dylan. He embraces.
Well, the best ever finish before was fourth.
And we're about to head down to the new Australian champion, Shannon Molson. Can you believe it?
Shannon, the look on your face says it all.
Oh, I'm so lost for words. I can't believe that this happened. It's a dream. It's an absolute dream. And I've just got so many people to thank, but my coach, Julian Knuppel, he's been with me the whole way. And this is my first year racing for a professional team. So Team Tipco, thanks for taking me on. And I'm so honoured that I get to wear the national jersey in these colours for the entire year. And my boyfriend Dylan, I love you so much. My mum, my dad, I'm so glad that you're here. Shout out to Kimbers. Just everyone who's been involved. Craig, you got me so strong. Oh my God, I can't. I'm going to keep going for hours.
That finish was nail-biting. It was a nail-biting victory. What was going through your mind there the last kilometre?
The last K, I was just really calm. I knew that I know that a headwind sprint, I'm not the biggest rider, so I can get quite aero. I knew that that was my advantage, and if I could just hold on up the climb one more time. Everyone was isolated, and I just knew that if I backed myself, I could do it, and that was a positive reinforcement that was going on in my head.
When did you know you had Garfoot?
Oh, I never knew I had Garfoot, to be honest. I remember going past her, and I remember Lauren just getting pushed into the barriers a little bit, like she chose the wrong side, which happens in the final moments, and I was out there in the wind for too long, to be honest, but luck was definitely swung my way today, let's say that.
Did you start the race thinking you'd be a gold medalist at the end?
Look, I knew that I came in with the best physical shape that I've ever been in. I was calm because of that. And as I said, I've just got my coach to thank for that, and everyone who's supported me on the way. I'm just so grateful. I can't believe it.
The green and gold is yours. We'll let you go to the podium. Congratulations.
God, thank you so much. Thanks.
You didn't have to listen to the words. You could just feel the emotion in the tone of her voice. Tears almost overwhelming. She used one word that wasn't relevant: luck. There was no luck involved.
No.
She looked like one of the strongest on the climb. She was composed at the finish, and she's the most deserving Australian champion. Shannon Molson takes gold ahead of Lauren Kitchen with the silver medal, and the bronze goes to Grace Brown.
Great result. I mean, great result for Victorian riders too. Both Malseed and Brown are Victorian riders, and so they would have had a really high level of motivation to do well on a course like this. And I think it's the first national championships for Grace Brown. Malseed has had a cracking year in Australia and racing in Europe for the first time at the end of 2017.
And for the Mitchelton Scott team, they miss out not only on the win, but on the podium.
Never happened before since the Orica Green Edge team began. So, as you said, Phil, they did everything they could. They rode smartly and they used their numbers. But again, I think that confidence, not being afraid of reputation, is a really important one for some of these riders.
This is a brilliant win. She said she never saw Garfoot, but she certainly knew where the finishing line was as she came through. A great win for Shannon. She's only 23 years of age, Matt.
A huge future ahead of her, and she's just been getting better every year. There's Grace Brown, the bronze medalist. They embrace. They spent all 2017 together, and Amanda Spratt showing her class there in 4th place behind all smiles, delighted for Shannon Molson to take the victory in Buninyong. She's trained on this course religiously for the past few years. She lives in Ballarat. She was the local favourite, and they've found themselves a winner.
Hopefully she'll get the keys to the city from the mayor. Sam McIntosh hopefully will be very excited to present her on the podium there. You know, such a proud Ballarat rider. It's a really wonderful result for the locals, but a great result for Malseed. She's an incredibly hard worker. She's just disciplined, dedicated, and she said she's got a great relationship with her coach and has worked with him for a long time.
And as an indication as to how tough the race was, there were only 7 riders in that leading group in the end. Malseed ahead of Kitchen, then Brown, followed by Spratt in 4th. Katrin Garfoot held on for 5th. Bridie Chapman was 6th. Shara Gillow was 7th, rounding out that leading group. So for 2018, the green and gold jersey of the Australian champion will be worn all around the globe by Shannon Malseed. What an outstanding performance. Join us again later on this afternoon when we pick up the elite men's road race. How it was won. Here she comes, Garfoot. The sprint is on behind her. They are closing in quickly. They may well get her. And it's Shannon Malseed. It's Kitchen. It's Malseed of Ballarat who gets the win. She defies the odds. They catch Garfoot, who crumbled, and Malseed has succeeded. And absolutely a sensational finish for Malseed. She's thrilled, so thrilled. What the timing of that sprint was amazing, really amazing. Well, 2017, she was the National Road Series winner, so the #1 rider domestically. This morning, the local from Ballarat was up against the best in Australian cycling, who were medalists at World Championships, and she came out on top. Shannon Malseed, how does it feel to be introduced as the Australian champion?
Oh, it still hasn't sunk in. It feels amazing. I can't believe that I pulled it off today, and I'm so honoured and proud to wear this jersey.
Normally you pan for gold with that device there, but today you found it around this course. Was there any home ground advantage, do you think, for you? Because you obviously would have done laps around this. Oh,
I've done countless laps around this, behind the motorbike, by myself. I pushed myself for the last few months just training for this. And yeah, thanks to my coach Julian for getting me in top form. I just can't thank him enough. You were on your own today in terms of riders from your team, but there was still a strong representation from the Holden team, which you've spent the last couple of years with. They looked as happy as anybody else out there to see you get the victory. Oh, absolutely, and to see Grace come in 3rd. We were talking out there and I said, man, you know that you do have to get away if you want to win this. And she kind of proved me wrong because she sprinted to 3rd. So that was a great move by her, and she tried her luck. And I'm just so proud of the Holden women's cycling team as a whole. They rode amazingly today, and yeah. Those last few laps, obviously Mitchell and Scott had the numbers. What was your tactics? What was going through your mind? Because you sort of, there was a few of you probably had your backs against the wall. Did it feel like that, or were you composed? I was pretty composed. They had Spratty and Lucy, and they had Jalen as well. But going into the final lap, when everything come back together and Spratty was isolated, I knew that look, they might not come away with this one today, and I just had to back myself, and I did, and I'm just, yeah, so glad. You spoke about backing yourself. Were there any moments of doubt during the race? Quietly confident, no. I knew that I was going to be able to stay there if I could just grit my teeth over that climb. I have a good little kick at the end there, so yeah. What about when Garfoot did the flyer? I mean, that's when really no one knows, no one can pick it. What were you thinking a kilometre to go? I was thinking, that's the race gone. I nearly swore, but that's the race gone. I thought, look, Kat, hats off to Kat, she's done it again. I did try and get, close that gap up, but thankfully Lauren Kitchen had a teammate in Shara Gillow to close that down, and once that started to happen, I thought, oh, it's coming back, and better get those legs ready to sprint. So you've got a full season overseas coming up in 2018, and every race that you start in, you'll be introduced as the Australian champion. Oh, yeah, it's an absolute honour to be able to represent Team Tibco. they believed in me. They've put me on their team. I've signed a contract with them for 2018, and I'm so glad to be able to reward them with this jersey for the entire year.
And you've put yourself in the mix for Commonwealth Games selection.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Just looking at the overlay now of the run into the line, just take us through this. There's Garfoot off the front still.
She is, and I'm just going, oh my God, I've hit out too early, it's a headwind, oh maybe I haven't, and then, yeah, I just crossed the line. I was so overwhelmed that I couldn't even throw my hands in the air.
Did you think you'd be the quickest of that group, of what was left there?
Oh, look, Lauren Kitchen beside me, she's a quick sprinter. Spratty's quick, Kat's quick, so, yeah, I'm so, I don't even know what to say. I can't believe I beat them all.
What about that moment when everybody's hugging you?
Oh, you can see the emotion there. Yeah, I couldn't, like, so much support. It was just overwhelming, and it still is, so.
And then you get to step out onto the podium. You've been there before in lots of races around the country in particular, but then to get introduced, the last one called up, they saved the best till last, and it's you at the top step.
Yeah, like, I have no words. It's amazing to look down at that crowd and see all of my friends and family there, and yeah, I just...
And just the respect, I think I look at Lauren, I look at the faces of Lauren and Grace, there's so much respect for each other, I think, and in the women's peloton there's a fair amount of that, and I think anyone who can get around this course after the distance that you ladies rode, there's mutual respect, isn't there?
Absolutely, there's so much respect for Lauren. She's an amazing cyclist, and Grace, I've raced with her on Holden and on the Australian development team, so to share the podium with those two women is just an honour.
What's the ultimate goal?
I don't know now. This is one of my bucket list goals, and I've ticked that off. Com Games is something that I'm really overwhelmed to be able to do, and I just can't wait to get into the racing.
Do you think a result like this changes that ultimate goal? Does it make you even more ambitious?
No, I think I wanted to try for Com Games anyway, and this is just a shoe-in, so I'm pretty happy with that.
There's a real push now in women's cycling. There has been for a few years, but you mentioned Grace Brown. She's a newcomer to cycling, and it's amazing that she's on the podium. Lucy Kennedy as well. So you've got some good competition, some healthy competition, haven't you, in terms of selection for national teams?
Absolutely. The field in Australia at the moment over the last few years is just getting better and better, and yeah, if we can get a little bit, more support and keep that development going, where Australia is going to be a country that's unstoppable in the future. It
was a historic moment as well for Australian cycling. This is the first time the women's road race at the National Championships has been broadcast live. And you get to be the first one across the line, live on telly.
I'm just thinking about my family, my brothers back there who are probably watching. I love you guys so much, and I'm so happy that you can probably see me on TV right now. So, hey.
Is it just, you just keep saying you're lost for words. When do you think it will sink in?
Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. I'm just going to try and soak it up.
Have you come to this race in the past and looked at the honour roll?
No, I haven't.
Well, next time, come back, look at the honour roll. Your name will be on there with some of the greats of Australian cycling.
Yes, it will.
People like Kathy Watt, Olympic Games gold medalists. We've got women like Anna Wilson, who's been the world's #1 for a few years running, and now Shannon Malseed is on there. It's pretty illustrious company.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have many words to follow that, but just, immensely happy and proud.
Who did you look up to in women's cycling when you were coming through, when you were a lot younger? Who inspired you?
A lot of the women, Anna Mears, a lot of the men too. I loved, Robbie was my favourite sprinter, and I mean, I've only really been watching it over the last 5 years, so a lot of those greats I didn't watch, to be honest, but yeah, a lot of the women say, you're catching Garfoots even, I look up to them, Gracie Elvin, Amanda Spratt, I want to be like them, and now I am, and it's really cool. So
you are. Well, now you've got the responsibility. There's going to be a lot of young women, the under-19s that have been racing here this week. They'll be looking up to Shannon Malseed. How do you celebrate tonight?
The under-19s, I've got to mention Sarah Giganti. She's my former teammate, and she had tears, and she nearly made me cry today, and I'm so proud of her. So look, I just want to gather my clan together and have a drink.
Well, Shannon, congratulations. Enjoy the celebration tonight. You're more than a deserving winner. Stuck there, outnumbered, riding solo, and then she got the win ahead of not just Australia's best, but some of the world's best. Shannon Malseed, she's the Australian champion for 2018.